The night Evelyn Harrow walked out of her father's estate without permission, she wore a dress she'd sewn in secret and carried nothing but a stolen invitation. For 3 years, her stepmother had buried her alive in that house, stripped her name from guest lists, poisoned every conversation, turned her into a ghost while she still breathed. Tonight, she would crash the veil ball, walk into a room full of people who'd forgotten she existed, and risk everything on one desperate gamble. That someone, anyone, would see her before the cage snapped shut forever. If you want to see how she breaks free, stay until the end. Drop a like, comment your city, and let's watch her fight back. The house smelled like roses and rot. Evelyn stood at the top of the servants' staircase, one hand pressed flat against the wallpaper her mother had chosen 15 years ago, pale blue with silver threading, faded now in the corners where no one bothered to look. Below, she could hear the dinner party her stepmother was hosting. Laughter, the clink of crystal. Voices that didn't include hers. She hadn't been invited. She lived here, in this house where she'd been born, where her mother had died holding her hand and whispering, "Be brave, be kind, be strong," and she wasn't invited to dinner in her own home. "Miss Evelyn?" She turned. Mary, the housemaid, stood 2 steps down, wringing her apron in both hands. She was younger than Evelyn by a year, maybe 2, but her eyes carried the exhausted caution of someone who'd learned not to ask questions. "She's asking for you," Mary said quietly. Evelyn's stomach tightened. "Who?" "Mrs. Harrow." Not your stepmother, not the mistress, just Mrs. Harrow, as if Evelyn's own mother had never existed, as if Beatrice had always been the lady of this house. "What does she want?" Mary glanced over her shoulder, then back. "She didn't say, just told me to fetch you." Evelyn closed her eyes, counted to 5, opened them again. "Tell her I'll be down in a moment." Mary hesitated, then nodded and disappeared down the stairs, her shoes barely making a sound. Evelyn waited until the girl was gone before letting herself sag against the wall. Her hands were shaking. They always shook now, ever since the night her father had looked at her across the drawing room and said, "I don't know what's gotten into you, Evelyn, but I won't tolerate this behavior any longer." She hadn't done anything. That was the worst part. She'd simply existed, and Beatrice had turned that existence into evidence of rebellion. 3 years. It had taken 3 years for Beatrice to do this. 3 years since her father remarried, since the new Mrs. Harrow arrived with her silk dresses and soft voice and careful, calculated smiles. 3 years of watching herself disappear piece by piece, first from the guest lists, then from the social calls, then from her father's attention entirely. Now she was a ghost in her own house. She straightened, smoothed her skirt, plain gray cotton, nothing like the gowns she used to wear, and started down the stairs. The dining room blazed with candlelight. 12 guests, all of them people Evelyn had known her entire life. Mrs. Calloway, who used to bring her lemon cakes when she was small. Mr. Dunmore, who taught her to play chess on rainy afternoons. The Ashfords, the Prestons, the Langleys, families her mother had entertained, families who'd watched Evelyn grow up. Not one of them looked at her when she entered. Beatrice sat at the head of the table in Evelyn's mother's chair, golden hair swept up in an elaborate arrangement, sapphire earrings glittering. She smiled when she saw Evelyn, the kind of smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Ah, there you are, darling. We were just discussing the veil ball next week. Such a shame you won't be attending." The room went quiet. Someone coughed. Evelyn stood in the doorway, hands clasped in front of her, and said nothing. "I'm sure you understand," Beatrice continued, lifting her wine glass. "After the incident at the Haverford garden party, it's best if you remain out of the public eye for a while. People talk, you know, and your father agrees it's for the best." Her father sat 3 chairs down, staring at his plate. "Don't you, darling?" Beatrice prompted. He cleared his throat. "Yes. Yes, of course." He didn't look at Evelyn. Mrs. Calloway shifted in her seat, uncomfortable. Mr. Dunmore studied his wine like it held answers. No one spoke. "Was there something you needed, Mrs. Harrow?" Evelyn asked quietly. "Oh, yes." Beatrice set down her glass. "I'll need you to go through the linens tomorrow. Some of them are looking dreadfully worn, and the silverware could use polishing. Mary's been so busy with preparations for the ball, poor thing." Evelyn felt the words land like stones. Linens, silverware, tasks for a servant, not a daughter. "Of course," she said. "Lovely." Beatrice's smile widened. That will be all. Dismissed. In front of everyone. Evelyn turned and walked out. She made it to the hallway, to the foot of the stairs, before her knees gave out and she had to sit down on the bottom step, pressing her palms against her eyes until the burning stopped. She didn't cry. She hadn't cried in months. There was no point. But her hands shook, and her chest felt too tight, and she wondered, not for the first time, if this was how her mother had felt at the end, trapped, erased, watching the world move on without her. Miss Evelyn? She looked up. Mary stood in the hallway, holding a folded piece of paper. This came for you, the girl whispered. Earlier. I didn't know when to give it to you, and I didn't want— It's all right. Evelyn took the paper, careful not to let her hands tremble. Thank you. Mary nodded and hurried away. Evelyn unfolded the note. It was an invitation. Cream cardstock, elegant script, sealed with black wax. You are cordially invited to the Vale Estate annual ball. Her heart stopped. She turned the card over. On the back, someone had written in hasty ink, "They don't get to erase you. Come anyway." No signature. Evelyn stared at the words until they blurred. She folded the invitation carefully, tucked it into her pocket, and went upstairs to her room, the smallest bedroom in the house, the one that used to be a guest room before Beatrice decided Evelyn's old bedroom would make a better sewing parlor. The room was cold, always cold, even in summer. A narrow bed, a single window, a wardrobe that held 3 dresses, all of them gray or brown. She locked the door. Then she pulled the invitation out again and read it 5 more times. Come anyway. It was insane. Suicidal. If she showed up at the Vale ball without permission, without an escort, Beatrice would destroy her. Completely. Publicly. Her father would do nothing to stop it. She'd be ruined beyond repair, cast out, left with nothing. But she was already nothing. That was the thing Beatrice didn't understand. You couldn't threaten someone who'd already lost everything. Evelyn crossed to the wardrobe and opened it. In the very back, wrapped in an old shawl and hidden behind the 3 gray dresses, was the gown she'd been working on for 6 months. Midnight blue silk, hand-stitched in secret, every spare penny saved from the household allowance Beatrice doled out like punishment. The fabric had cost her 4 months. The thread, another 2. She'd sewn it at night, by candlelight, with the door locked and her heart in her throat. She pulled it out now and held it up to the window. It was beautiful, not because of the silk or the stitching, but because she'd made it herself. Because it was hers. Because for 6 months, every time she'd pushed a needle through fabric, she'd imagined walking into a room full of people who'd forgotten her name and making them remember. They don't get to erase you. She folded the gown carefully and put it back. Then she sat down on the bed and started planning. The next 5 days were the longest of her life. She polished the silverware, counted the linens, smiled when Beatrice gave her orders, and nodded when her father walked past without speaking. She kept her head down, her voice soft, her hands steady. And every night she locked her door and worked on the dress. On the morning of the ball, Beatrice came to her room without knocking. Evelyn was sitting at the small desk by the window, mending one of Beatrice's shawls. She looked up when the door opened. "I'm going into town," Beatrice said. Her voice was light, almost pleasant. "The final fitting for my gown. Your father's coming with me. We'll be gone most of the day." Evelyn set down the needle. "Of course." Beatrice stepped into the room, her eyes scanning the space like she was searching for something out of place. Her gaze lingered on the wardrobe. "You've been very quiet lately," she said. "I've been busy." Good," Beatrice smiled. "I do appreciate how cooperative you've been. It makes everything so much easier." Evelyn said nothing. Beatrice turned to leave, then paused in the doorway. "Oh, and Evelyn? Don't wait up. We'll be dining in town after the fitting. The house will be yours for the evening." The door closed. Evelyn sat perfectly still, listening to the sound of Beatrice's footsteps retreating down the hall, then the creak of the stairs, then the murmur of voices below, then the crunch of carriage wheels on gravel, then silence. She waited another 10 minutes, just to be sure. Then she stood, locked the door, and pulled out the dress. The bath was cold, but she scrubbed until her skin hurt anyway. She dried off, wrapped herself in a threadbare robe, and sat down in front of the small mirror to fix her hair. It took an hour. Her hair was long, dark, unruly. Her mother's hair. She braided it, pinned it, twisted it into something that looked almost elegant. Her hands shook the entire time, but the final result held. Then she put on the dress. The silk was cool against her skin, the bodice snug, the skirt falling in heavy, perfect folds. She'd made the waist just tight enough to emphasize the narrowness of it, the neckline just low enough to be daring without crossing into scandalous. The color, midnight blue, almost black in dim light, made her skin look pale, luminous. She looked like someone else. No, she looked like herself. The version of herself Beatrice had tried to bury. She wrapped a dark cloak over the dress, pulled the hood up, and slipped out the servant's door. The walk to the Vale estate took an hour. Her feet ached by the time she reached the gates. The mansion loomed ahead, every window blazing with light. Carriages lined the drive, footmen in livery directing guests, music drifting through the open doors. Evelyn stood at the edge of the property and felt her courage waver. This was insane. She had no escort, no chaperone, no official invitation. If anyone recognized her, and they would, Beatrice would hear about it within the hour. By tomorrow morning, her father would throw her out. She'd have nowhere to go, no money, no protection. She could turn around, go home, burn the dress, and pretend tonight had never happened. But then what? She'd go back to the small room and the gray dresses and the slow, suffocating erasure of everything she'd ever been. No. Evelyn pulled the cloak tighter and started walking. The entrance was chaos. Carriages disgorging guests, footmen checking invitations, women in silk and jewels laughing behind gloved hands. Evelyn joined the crowd, keeping her head down, the invitation clutched in one hand. One of the footmen glanced at her, then at the card. Name? Her mouth went dry. Evelyn Harrow. He frowned, scanning a list. I don't see a... She's expected. Evelyn turned. A woman stood behind her, tall and sharp-eyed, dressed in emerald silk. Evelyn didn't recognize her. The footman hesitated. Lady Ashcroft? I said she's expected. The woman's voice was steel wrapped in velvet. Lord Vale's orders. The footman stepped aside. Evelyn walked through the doors. The ballroom was everything she remembered and nothing like it at the same time. Chandeliers dripping crystal, marble floors polished to mirrors, hundreds of people in silk and jewels and perfect smiles. The air smelled like champagne and hothouse flowers, an expensive perfume. No one noticed her at first. She slipped along the wall, keeping to the edges, her heart hammering against her ribs. She'd forgotten how overwhelming this was, the noise, the light, the press of bodies. She'd been to dozens of balls before Beatrice, but that felt like another lifetime. Then someone gasped. Evelyn froze. A woman near the refreshment table was staring at her, eyes wide. Then the woman next to her turned, then someone else. Within 30 seconds, half the room was staring. Evelyn stood near the edge of the dance floor, alone, and felt every eye land on her like a weight. She'd forgotten what this felt like, being seen. Is that... It can't be. Evelyn Harrow? I thought she was... Where's her chaperone? Look at that dress. The whispers spread like fire. Evelyn lifted her chin and walked forward. She had no plan, no idea what she was doing. She just walked, step by step, into the center of the room and let them look. Let them see what Beatrice had tried to hide. Well, well, the voice came from behind her, low and amused. She turned. A man stood 3 feet away watching her with the kind of attention that felt like being dissected. Tall, dark-haired, impeccably dressed in black. His eyes were the coldest shade of gray she'd ever seen, and they were fixed on her like she was the only person in the room. Adrian Vale. She'd never met him, never even been in the same room. But everyone knew who he was. The man who'd inherited a crumbling estate at 16 and turned it into an empire by 25. The man who'd ruined 3 rival families without breaking a sweat. The man people whispered about at parties and avoided in business meetings. You're not supposed to be here, he said. It wasn't a question. Evelyn's throat tightened. No, I'm not. His mouth curved, not quite a smile. Good. I hate boring parties. He offered his hand. She stared at it. Dance with me, he said, or stand here and let them eat you alive. Your choice. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Around them, the whispers grew louder. She could feel the weight of judgment pressing down, every eye, every raised eyebrow, every smirk hidden behind a fan. She took his hand. The ballroom erupted in murmurs. Adrian led her onto the dance floor without a word, his grip firm, confident. The orchestra shifted into a waltz. He placed one hand at her waist, the other holding hers, and pulled her into the first step. She stumbled. "Relax," he said quietly. "You look like you're about to bolt." "I am about to bolt." "Don't. They'll tear you apart if you run." "They're going to tear me apart anyway." "Probably." He spun her smoothly, his expression unreadable. "But at least this way, you get a dance first." She almost laughed. Almost. But her throat was too tight, her chest too full of panic and adrenaline and the wild, reckless realization that she'd actually done it. She was here, dancing with Adrian Vale in front of everyone who'd forgotten her. "Why are you helping me?" she asked. "Who says I'm helping you?" "You could have let that footman turn me away." "True. So why didn't you?" He studied her for a long moment, his gray eyes unreadable. "Because you walked in here alone, wearing a dress you clearly made yourself, with no invitation and no backup plan, and you still held your head up. That takes either courage or stupidity, and I'm curious which one it is." "Maybe both. Even better." They turned again, moving through the other dancers. Evelyn could feel eyes on her from every direction, some curious, some scandalized, some openly hostile. Near the edge of the floor, she spotted Mrs. Calloway whispering to Mrs. Preston. Both women looked horrified. "They're all talking about me," Evelyn said quietly. "Of course they are. You crashed a ball unescorted. That's social suicide." "I know. So why did you do it?" She looked up at him. His expression was still calm, almost bored, but his eyes were sharp, calculating. "Because I was tired of being erased," she said. Something flickered in his expression. Not quite surprise, something closer to recognition. "Who's trying to erase you?" "My stepmother, Beatrice Harrow." It wasn't a question. He knew. Of course he knew. Adrian Vale made it his business to know everything about everyone. "Yes," Evelyn said. "And your father?" "Believes everything she tells him." Adrian nodded slowly, like this confirmed something he'd already suspected. "So you decided to show up here and make yourself seen?" "Something like that." "Risky." "I had nothing left to lose." "Everyone has something to lose," he said. "The trick is figuring out what you're willing to sacrifice and what you're not." The music shifted, slowing. The waltz was ending. Evelyn felt panic rise in her chest. When the dance ended, Adrian would walk away and she'd be standing alone in the middle of the ballroom with no plan and no protection. Beatrice would hear about this within the hour. By tomorrow, she'd be thrown out of the house. "Don't look so terrified," Adrian said. "You're not done yet." "What?" The music ended. He released her waist, but kept hold of her hand. Then he turned to face the room. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice cutting through the noise like a blade, "I'd like to introduce Miss Evelyn Harrow. Some of you may remember her, others may have forgotten. Either way, she'll be staying for the evening as my guest." The room went silent. Evelyn's heart stopped. Adrian looked down at her, his expression unreadable. "That is, if you're willing." She stared at him. He just publicly claimed her as his guest, in front of everyone. That meant anyone who wanted to insult her, exclude her, or gossip about her would have to go through him first, and no one went through Adrian Vale. "Why?" she whispered. "Because I'm bored," he said. "And you're interesting." It was the worst reason and the best reason at the same time. Evelyn nodded. Adrian's mouth curved into something that might have been a smile. Then he turned back to the crowd. "Enjoy the evening," he said. And just like that, the spell broke. The music started again. People turned back to their conversations, though the whispers didn't stop. But they were quieter now, more careful. Adrian led her off the dance floor toward a quieter corner near the windows. "You just made yourself a target," Evelyn said. "I've been a target since I was 16. I'm used to it. Beatrice will come for you. Let her." He picked up 2 glasses of champagne from a passing tray and handed her one. "I've dealt with worse than Beatrice Harrow." Evelyn took the glass but didn't drink. Her hands were still shaking. "I don't understand," she said. "You don't know me. You don't owe me anything. Why would you—" "Because 3 years ago, I watched your stepmother systematically destroy your reputation at the Haverford garden party," Adrian said. "And I watched everyone in that garden stand by and let it happen, including your father." Evelyn's breath caught. She remembered that day, the garden party, the moment everything had started to fall apart. Beatrice had told everyone that Evelyn had been caught sneaking out to meet a man, a lie, a complete fabrication. But by the time Evelyn had arrived, the damage was done. No one believed her denials. Her father had been humiliated, and Beatrice had played the role of concerned stepmother perfectly. "You were there?" Evelyn asked. "I was there. And you didn't say anything." "I didn't know you," Adrian said, "and I don't make a habit of involving myself in other people's drama, but I remember thinking it was a very efficient assassination. Quick, brutal, effective. Your stepmother's good at what she does." "She's had practice." "I imagine so." He took a sip of champagne, his gaze drifting across the ballroom. "So when I saw you walk in here tonight, alone, wearing that dress, I thought, here's someone who's finally decided to fight back, and I respect that." "Respect doesn't explain why you'd risk your own reputation." "My reputation is bulletproof," Adrian said. "Yours isn't, not yet, but it will be if you play this right." Evelyn frowned. "Play what right?" He looked at her. "The game. The one your stepmother's been playing for 3 years. You're finally on the board now. Question is, do you know how to move?" She didn't know what to say to that. Before she could answer, a woman approached. Middle-aged, elegant, wearing pearls and a sharp expression. Lady Ashcroft, the woman who'd vouched for Evelyn at the door. "Adrian," she said, "might I have a word?" "Of course." Adrian gestured to Evelyn. "Lady Ashcroft, this is—" "I know who she is." Lady Ashcroft's gaze swept over Evelyn, assessing. "We met briefly at the door." "Thank you for that," Evelyn said quietly. Lady Ashcroft waved a hand. "Adrian asked me to watch for you. I was simply following instructions." Evelyn turned to Adrian. "You knew I was coming?" "I suspected." "How?" "Because I sent the invitation." The world tilted. Evelyn stared at him. "You— what?" "The anonymous note," Adrian said. "They don't get to erase you. Come anyway. That was me." "But why would you eat—" "Because I wanted to see if you'd show up," he said simply. "And you did. Which means you're either very brave or very desperate, and either way, you're exactly the kind of person I need." "Need for what?" "To make this party less boring," he said, "and to annoy your stepmother. I imagine she'll hear about tonight within the hour." Evelyn's stomach dropped. She'd known this would happen, known Beatrice would find out, but hearing Adrian say it out loud made it real in a way it hadn't been before. "She'll destroy me," Evelyn said. "She'll try," Adrian corrected, "but she'll have to go through me first. And trust me, Miss Harrow, your stepmother is good, but I'm better." Lady Ashcroft cleared her throat. "Adrian, a word. Now." Adrian sighed. "Excuse me." He walked a few steps away with Lady Ashcroft, their heads bent in conversation. Evelyn couldn't hear what they were saying, but Lady Ashcroft looked displeased. Evelyn stood alone near the window, clutching her champagne glass, and tried not to panic. This was insane. She'd walked into a ball uninvited, danced with the most dangerous man in the room, and now he'd publicly claimed her as his guest. By tomorrow morning, Beatrice would know. Her father would know. Everyone would know. And she still had no idea what came next. "Evelyn Harrow." She turned. A young woman stood a few feet away, watching her with open curiosity. She was maybe a year or two younger than Evelyn, with auburn hair and a dress that cost more than Evelyn's entire wardrobe. "I'm sorry," Evelyn said. "Do I know you?" "Not yet," the girl smiled. "I'm Caroline Preston. We met once years ago. You probably don't remember." Evelyn did remember, vaguely. Caroline Preston had been at a garden party when they were both 14. She'd been shy, quiet, easy to overlook. "I remember," Evelyn said carefully. Caroline's smile widened. "Good. Because I've been dying to talk to you all night, but I didn't want to interrupt your dance with Lord Vale. That was quite the entrance, by the way. I'm sure everyone's talking about it." "Oh, they are." Half the room thinks you're insane, the other half thinks you're brilliant. I'm in the second half for what it's worth." Evelyn blinked. "You think I'm brilliant?" "I think you're brave," Caroline said. "Walking in here alone, facing down all these people? I could never do that." "I didn't have much choice." "We always have choices," Caroline said. "Some of them are just harder than others." Before Evelyn could respond, Adrian returned, Lady Ashcroft at his side. The older woman still looked displeased, but she'd schooled her expression into something more neutral. "Miss Harrow," Lady Ashcroft said, "I'll be blunt. What you did tonight, showing up uninvited, unescorted, was incredibly foolish. It could have ruined you." "I know," Evelyn said. "However," Lady Ashcroft continued, "Adrian seems to think you're worth the scandal. And while I don't always agree with his judgment, I do trust it. So I'm going to give you some advice. Are you listening?" Evelyn nodded. "Don't apologize," Lady Ashcroft said. "Not to anyone. Not for being here, not for the dress, not for dancing with Adrian. The moment you apologize, you give them permission to judge you. Hold your head up, act like you belong here, and make them question their own assumptions. Do you understand?" "I think so." "Good." Lady Ashcroft glanced at Adrian. "I'm going to circulate. Try not to cause any more scandals tonight." "No promises," Adrian said. Lady Ashcroft rolled her eyes and walked away. Caroline excused herself a moment later, leaving Evelyn alone with Adrian again. "She's terrifying," Evelyn said. "She's also right," Adrian said. "Don't apologize, not for any of this." "Even if Beatrice, especially if Beatrice," he said. "Your stepmother thrives on other people's guilt and shame. The moment you show either, she wins. So don't." Evelyn looked down at her champagne glass. She still hadn't taken a sip. "I don't know how to do this," she admitted. "Do what?" "Fight back. Play the game like you said. I've spent 3 years just trying to survive. I don't know how to—" She stopped, frustrated. "I don't even know what I'm doing here." "You're here because you decided you'd rather risk everything than live like a ghost," Adrian said. "That's not nothing, Miss Harrow. That's the first move. Everything else comes after." "What if I don't know the next move?" "Then you learn." He took the champagne glass from her hand and set it on a nearby table. "Come on." "Where are we going?" "To introduce you to people," he said. "You're my guest. That means you're under my protection. And if you're going to survive what comes next, you need allies. So let's find you some." He offered his arm. Evelyn hesitated. This was it, the point of no return. If she took his arm, if she let him introduce her to people, there was no going back. Beatrice would hear about it. Her father would hear about it. By tomorrow, the entire county would know that Evelyn Harrow had crashed the Vale Ball and spent the evening on Adrian Vale's arm. She'd be ruined, or saved. Maybe both. She took his arm. Adrian smiled, a real smile this time, not the calculated half-curve from before, and led her into the crowd. The next hour passed in a blur. Adrian introduced her to dozens of people, lords, ladies, merchants, politicians. Some of them were polite. Some were cold. A few were openly hostile. But no one dared to insult her directly, not with Adrian standing beside her. She met Lord Ashford, who remembered her mother and spoke kindly of her. She met Mrs. Langley, who looked at her like she was a curiosity but wasn't unkind. She met a young man named Thomas Brennan, who talked too much about horses and didn't seem to notice or care that Evelyn had shown up uninvited. And slowly, gradually, the panic in her chest started to ease. She was still terrified, still waiting for the other shoe to drop. But for the first time in 3 years, she wasn't invisible. People saw her, spoke to her, remembered her name. It felt like breathing after drowning. "You're doing well," Adrian said quietly, as they moved away from a conversation with a pair of elderly merchants. "I feel like I'm going to pass out." "You're not. You're holding up better than most people would." "That's not reassuring." "It wasn't meant to be." He glanced toward the entrance. "We have a problem." Evelyn followed his gaze. Beatrice Harrow stood in the doorway, staring directly at her. Evelyn's blood turned to ice. Beatrice looked exactly as she had that morning. Golden hair, elegant gown, perfect posture. But her expression was cold, furious, barely controlled. She started walking toward them. "Don't run," Adrian said quietly. "Don't apologize. Don't give her anything. She's going to... I know. Let her. Beatrice stopped 3 feet away. Her eyes swept over Evelyn, taking in the dress, the pinned hair, the fact that she was standing next to Adrian Vale. Evelyn, she said. Her voice was calm. Too calm. What a surprise. Evelyn's throat tightened. Mrs. Harrow? I wasn't aware you'd be attending tonight, Beatrice continued. You didn't mention it this morning. It was a last-minute decision. I see. Beatrice's gaze flicked to Adrian. Lord Vale, how kind of you to extend an invitation to my stepdaughter. Miss Harrow is my guest, Adrian said. His voice was polite, but there was steel underneath. Is there a problem? Not at all, Beatrice said smoothly. I'm simply concerned for her well-being. She's been unwell lately, prone to episodes. I'd hate for her to embarrass herself, or you, by having one here. Evelyn felt the words hit like a slap. Episodes. That was new. A lie Beatrice was spinning right here, right now, to undermine her. I'm perfectly well, Evelyn said. Of course you are, darling. Beatrice's smile was venomous. But perhaps it would be best if you came home. Your father is waiting. He's quite upset. My father knew I was coming, Evelyn said. It was a lie, but she said it anyway. Beatrice's expression flickered, just for a second. Then the mask slid back into place. Did he? She said softly. How strange. He seemed quite surprised when I told him. Then perhaps you misunderstood, Adrian said. Miss Harrow is here at my invitation, with my full knowledge and approval. If her father has concerns, he's welcome to address them with me directly. Beatrice's eyes narrowed. Lord Vale, I appreciate your hospitality. But Evelyn is my responsibility, and I think it's best if she comes home. Now. No, Evelyn said. The word came out stronger than she'd expected. Beatrice turned to her, and for just a second the mask cracked. Fury blazed in her eyes, pure, undiluted rage. What did you say? I said no. Evelyn's heart was hammering, but she kept her voice steady. I'm not leaving. Evelyn, I'm staying, Evelyn said, as Lord Vale's guest. If father has a problem with that, he can tell me himself. The silence that followed was suffocating. Around them, conversations had stopped. People were watching, listening, waiting to see what would happen next. Beatrice's smile was ice. Very well, stay, but don't come crying to me when this ends badly. She turned and walked away, her skirt swishing behind her. Evelyn stood frozen, shaking from head to toe. Breathe, Adrian said quietly. She did. Once. Twice. Her lungs felt too tight. You just told your stepmother no, Adrian said. In public, in front of half the county. That's not nothing, Miss Harrow. She's going to destroy me. She's going to try, he corrected. But you're not alone anymore. Remember that. Evelyn looked at him. His expression was calm, unreadable. But there was something in his eyes, something that looked almost like approval. Why are you doing this? She asked again. Because I'm curious, he said. And because I think you're stronger than you realize. I don't feel strong. You're still standing, he said. That's strength. The music started again. The crowd slowly returned to their conversations, though Evelyn could still feel eyes on her. Adrian offered his hand. One more dance? She took it. This time, she didn't stumble. The carriage ride back to the estate felt like traveling toward an execution. Evelyn sat across from Adrian, her hands folded in her lap to keep them from shaking. The midnight blue dress that had felt like armor 2 hours ago now felt like evidence. Proof of rebellion. Proof she'd stopped playing by Beatrice's rules. You're quiet, Adrian said. She looked at him. He was watching her with that same unreadable expression he'd worn all night. Calculating, curious, impossibly calm. I'm trying to figure out if I just made the best decision of my life or the worst, she said. Probably both. That's not helpful. It's honest. He leaned back against the seat. What do you think your father will do? I don't know. Before Beatrice, he would have been angry, but he would have listened. Now? She shook her head. He'll believe whatever she tells him. And what will she tell him? That I'm out of control, that I embarrassed the family, That I need to be sent away somewhere quiet where I can't cause any more trouble. Will he do it? Evelyn's throat tightened. Maybe. Probably. I don't know. The carriage hit a rut in the road, jolting them both. Outside, the countryside was dark, empty. No lights except the moon and the carriage lamps. You could stay at the Vale estate tonight, Adrian said. Lady Ashcroft wouldn't object. It would give you time to think. Running away won't help. It's not running away. It's strategy. It's the same thing. No, Adrian said. Running away is retreating. Strategy is choosing your ground before the fight starts. There's a difference. Evelyn looked down at her hands. They were still shaking. I appreciate everything you've done tonight, she said quietly. But this is my problem. My family. I need to face it. Even if facing it means getting thrown out? Even then, Adrian studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. All right, but if things go badly, and they will, you know where to find me. Why would you help me again? Because I'm invested now, he said, and I don't like leaving things unfinished. The carriage pulled up to the Harrow estate 20 minutes later. Every window blazed with light. Evelyn's stomach dropped. They're awake, she said. Of course they are. Adrian opened the carriage door and stepped out, then offered his hand. Let's get this over with. She took his hand and climbed down. The front door opened before they reached it. Beatrice stood in the doorway, backlit, her face a mask of cold fury. Evelyn, she said, inside, now. I'll escort her in, Adrian said. That won't be necessary. I insist. Beatrice's jaw tightened, but she stepped aside. The entrance hall was empty except for her father. He stood near the stairs, still dressed in his evening clothes, looking older than Evelyn remembered. His face was pale, his hands clasped behind his back. Evelyn, he said. His voice cracked on her name. She hadn't heard him say her name in months. Father, what were you thinking? He crossed the hall toward her, and for a second she thought he might embrace her, but he stopped 3 feet away, like there was an invisible wall between them. Showing up at the Vale Ball without permission, without a chaperone. Do you have any idea what you've done? I went to a party, Evelyn said. That's all. That's all? Beatrice's voice cut through the room like a whip. You humiliated this family. You made a spectacle of yourself. And you did it in front of everyone who matters. I danced, Evelyn said. I spoke to people. I existed. That's not a crime. You defied me, Beatrice said. After everything I've done for you. Everything you've done to me, Evelyn corrected. Her voice was shaking, but she pushed forward anyway. You've spent 3 years erasing me, taking away my friends, my reputation, my life. And Father just stood by and let it happen. Her father flinched. Evelyn, that's not... It is, she said. You know it is. You just don't want to admit it. That's enough, Beatrice snapped. Go to your room. We'll discuss this in the morning when you've calmed down. No. The word hung in the air. Beatrice's expression went cold. What did you say? I said no. Evelyn's heart was hammering, but she held her ground. I'm done following your orders. I'm done being invisible. I'm done. You ungrateful. Beatrice. Adrian's voice cut through the room, quiet but absolute. I think that's enough. Beatrice turned on him. This is a family matter, Lord Vale. It doesn't concern you. Miss Harrow is my guest. That makes it my concern. Your guest? Beatrice's laugh was sharp, brittle. Is that what you're calling it? How noble of you, Lord Vale, to take an interest in a girl young enough to be... Careful, Adrian said. His voice didn't rise, but the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. You're about to say something you'll regret. Beatrice's mouth snapped shut. Evelyn's father stepped forward, his hands raised. Please, everyone, let's talk about this rationally. There's nothing to talk about, Beatrice said. Evelyn has proven she can't be trusted. She needs structure, discipline. I've been far too lenient with her, and this is the result. Lenient? Evelyn's voice broke. You've been suffocating me for 3 years. I've been protecting you, Beatrice said. From yourself, from your own impulses. And this is how you repay me? I don't need your protection. Clearly you do, Beatrice said. Because left to your own devices, you show up at balls uninvited and throw yourself at the first man who shows you attention. That's not what happened, isn't it? Beatrice turned to Adrian. Tell me, Lord Vale, did my stepdaughter throw herself at you tonight, or did you pursue her? Adrian's expression didn't change. I invited her to dance. She accepted, that's all. How convenient, Beatrice said, and I'm sure it had nothing to do with the fact that she's desperate for attention, for validation, for someone, anyone, to make her feel important again. The words hit like stones. Evelyn felt her face burn, because part of it was true. She had been desperate. She had wanted someone to see her, but that didn't make what Beatrice was implying true. That's enough, her father said quietly. Beatrice, please. No, Beatrice said. This has gone on long enough. Evelyn needs help, real help. And I know a place, a quiet place, up north where she can rest, recover, get the care she needs. Evelyn's blood went cold. What are you talking about? A sanitarium, Beatrice said calmly. For young women suffering from nervous disorders. It's very discreet, very well regarded. I've already made inquiries. The room tilted. A sanitarium. Beatrice wanted to send her to a sanitarium. You can't be serious, Evelyn whispered. I'm perfectly serious, Beatrice said. You're clearly unwell, darling. Tonight proved that. And your father agrees with me. Don't you, darling? She looked at him. Evelyn's father stood frozen, his face pale, his mouth opening and closing like he couldn't find words. Father, Evelyn said. Her voice broke. Please don't do this. He looked at Beatrice, then back at Evelyn. I just want what's best for you. Then listen to me, Evelyn said. I'm not sick. I'm not having episodes. I just wanted one night, one single night, where I wasn't invisible. That's all. Evelyn, she's manipulating you, Evelyn said desperately. Can't you see that? She's been doing it for 3 years. She took my room, my friends, my place in this family, and now she wants to take me. And you're just going to let her. Her father's face crumpled. I don't know what to believe anymore. Believe me, Evelyn said. Please, I'm your daughter. Believe me. Silence. Her father looked at Beatrice. Beatrice looked back, her expression perfectly composed, perfectly sympathetic. And Evelyn knew. She'd already lost. I think it's best if you go to your room, her father said quietly. We'll discuss this in the morning. Father, please, Evelyn, just go. She stared at him. This man who'd taught her to ride when she was 5, who'd read her stories before bed, who'd held her hand at her mother's funeral and promised he'd never leave her. He was leaving her now. Fine, she said. Her voice was flat, empty. I'll go. She turned toward the stairs. Miss Harrow. She stopped, looked back at Adrian. He was watching her with that same unreadable expression. But when he spoke, his voice was quiet, final. The offer stands, he said. If you need somewhere to go, you know where to find me. Beatrice's eyes narrowed. Lord Vale, I really must insist. You can insist all you like, Adrian said. But Miss Harrow is an adult. If she chooses to leave, that's her decision, not yours. She's my stepdaughter. She's 20 years old, Adrian said. Old enough to make her own choices. Remember that. He looked at Evelyn one last time, then turned and walked out. The door closed behind him. Evelyn stood on the stairs, alone, and felt the weight of everything crash down. Go to your room, Beatrice said. Now. Evelyn went. Tubbed. She didn't sleep. She sat on the narrow bed in the small cold room and stared at the wall until her eyes burned. Outside, the sky slowly shifted from black to gray. Dawn was coming. By noon, Beatrice would have the sanitarium arrangements finalized. By tomorrow, Evelyn would be gone, locked away, erased, unless she ran. The thought came slowly, then all at once. She could leave, right now, before Beatrice woke up, before her father made his final decision. She could walk out the servant's door the same way she'd left last night, and she could go to the Vale estate. Adrian had said the offer stood. But what kind of life would that be? Dependent on a man she barely knew, indebted to someone who'd already done too much, trading one cage for another. No, if she was going to leave, she needed to do it on her own terms. Evelyn stood, crossed to the wardrobe, and started packing. She didn't have much, 3 dresses, the gray ones Beatrice had given her. The midnight blue gown, still draped over the chair. A few underthings, a book her mother had given her when she was 12. She wrapped everything in a shawl, tied it tight, and set it by the door. Then she sat down at the small desk and wrote 2 letters. The first was to her father. Father, I'm leaving. Not because I want to, but because staying means losing myself completely. Beatrice has been lying to you for 3 years. I hope someday you'll see that. I hope someday you'll forgive yourself for believing her. I love you. I always will. Evelyn. The second letter was harder. She stared at the blank page for a long time before finally writing. Lord Vale, thank you for last night, for seeing me when no one else did, for giving me a chance to fight back. But I can't accept your offer. I won't trade one cage for another. I need to stand on my own. I hope you understand. Evelyn Harrow. She folded both letters, sealed them, and tucked them into her pocket. Then she picked up the bundle, unlocked the door, and stepped into the hallway. The house was silent. Gray morning light filtered through the windows. No one was awake yet. Evelyn moved quickly, quietly, down the servant's staircase to the back door. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely turn the handle. Then she was outside. The air was cold, damp with morning mist. The garden stretched out ahead of her, dark and empty. She started walking. She made it halfway across the lawn before she heard footsteps behind her. Going somewhere? Evelyn spun. Beatrice stood on the back terrace, wrapped in a silk dressing gown, her hair loose around her shoulders. She looked almost human like this, softer, less polished, but her eyes were hard as stone. Let me go, Evelyn said. I can't do that. You can't stop me. Can't I? Beatrice descended the steps slowly, deliberately. Where will you go, Evelyn? You have no money, no friends, no one who'll take you in. You think Lord Vale will help you? He was amusing himself last night, that's all. Men like him don't save girls like you. They ruin them. You don't know anything about him. I know everything about him, Beatrice said. I know he's dangerous. I know he destroys people for sport. And I know that if you walk out that door, you'll be ruined beyond repair. No one will ever receive you. No one will ever marry you. You'll spend the rest of your life alone, poor and forgotten. Better that than staying here with you. Beatrice's expression hardened. You ungrateful little fool. I've given you everything. You've taken everything, Evelyn said. My home, my father, my life. And I'm done. I'm done pretending. I'm done being quiet. I'm done letting you erase me. You think you're so strong, Beatrice said. You think walking away makes you brave, but you're just a scared little girl playing dress-up, and the world will eat you alive. Maybe, Evelyn said, but at least I'll be alive, not buried in this house like a ghost. She turned and started walking. Evelyn. She didn't stop. Evelyn, if you walk away now, you can never come back. Do you understand? Your father will disown you. You'll have nothing. Evelyn kept walking. I mean it, Beatrice called. One more step and you're dead to this family. Evelyn took another step, then another. Behind her, Beatrice screamed something, rage, frustration, threats Evelyn didn't hear. She just kept walking. Past the gardens, past the gates, down the long drive that led away from the estate. The sun was rising now, pale gold light spilling across the fields. Her feet ached. Her bundle was heavy. But she didn't stop. She walked for an hour before the carriage appeared. It came from behind her, wheels crunching on gravel. Evelyn moved to the side of the road, expecting it to pass. It didn't. The carriage slowed, then stopped beside her. The door opened. Adrian Vale looked down at her, his expression unreadable. Get in, he said. Evelyn stared at him. How did you— I had someone watching the house, he said, in case you decided to do something stupid, which you did. Now get in before Beatrice sends someone after you. I can't— You can argue with me in the carriage, or you can argue with me on the side of the road, Adrian said. But either way, you're getting in. Because if you think I spent last night protecting you just to watch you walk into the wilderness alone, you're insane. Evelyn's throat tightened. She climbed into the carriage. Adrian closed the door and signaled the driver. The carriage lurched forward. Inside, the silence was suffocating. I wrote you a letter, Evelyn said finally. She pulled it from her pocket and handed it to him. I was going to send it once I got settled somewhere. Adrian opened the letter, read it, then looked at her. "You're an idiot," he said. "Excuse me?" "Standing on your own is admirable," he said, "but refusing help when you need it is just pride, and pride will get you killed. I don't want to be indebted to you." "You already are," Adrian said. "The moment I danced with you last night, you became my responsibility. That's how this works. You don't get to walk away from that just because it makes you uncomfortable." "I'm not your responsibility." "Yes, you are," he said, "because I made you mine when I claimed you as my guest. And I don't abandon my people. Ever." Evelyn stared at him. "Why are you doing this?" "I told you, I'm invested." "That's not a reason." "It's the only reason that matters," Adrian said. He folded the letter and tucked it into his coat pocket. "Now, where were you planning to go?" "I don't know. The city, maybe. Find work." "Doing what?" "I don't know," Evelyn said again. Her voice was rising, frustration bleeding through. "I didn't have time to make a plan. I just knew I had to leave." "So you were going to walk to the city with no money, no references, no plan, and hope for the best?" "Yes." "That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard." "Well, I'm sorry my escape plan wasn't up to your standards." "It's not about standards," Adrian said. "It's about survival. You wouldn't have made it a week." "You don't know that." "Yes, I do," he said. "Because I've seen what happens to women in your position. They end up in workhouses, or worse. And you—" He stopped, jaw tight. "You're too stubborn to see it, but you'd be dead inside a month." The words hit like a slap. Evelyn looked away, her throat tight, because part of her knew he was right. She'd been running on desperation and adrenaline, with no real plan beyond get away. "So what do you suggest?" she asked quietly. "Come to the Vale Estate," Adrian said. "Stay as a guest. Lady Ashcroft will chaperone. We'll figure out next steps from there." "And what are the next steps?" "That depends on you," he said. "What do you want?" The question caught her off guard. What did she want? She'd spent 3 years just trying to survive. She hadn't thought beyond that. "I want my life back," she said finally. "I want people to remember who I was before Beatrice. I want—" She stopped, frustrated. "I want to stop being afraid." Adrian nodded slowly. "Then we'll make that happen." "How?" "By playing the game," he said. "The one Beatrice has been winning for 3 years. We're going to beat her at it." "I don't know how to play that game." "I do," Adrian said. "And I'll teach you. But first, you need to survive. And to survive, you need allies, resources, a place to stand. That's what I'm offering." Evelyn looked at him. His expression was calm, unreadable, but his eyes were sharp, calculating. "What do you get out of this?" she asked. "Entertainment," he said, "and the satisfaction of watching Beatrice Harrow lose." "That's it?" "That's enough." Evelyn didn't believe him. There had to be more to it than that, but she was too tired to argue. "All right," she said. "I'll stay. For now." "Good." Adrian leaned back against the seat. "We'll arrive at the estate in an hour. Lady Ashcroft will have a room prepared for you. Get some rest. Tomorrow, we start planning." "Planning what?" "Your reintroduction to society," he said. "If we're going to destroy Beatrice's lies, we need to do it publicly, decisively. And we need to make sure everyone sees you're not the broken, unstable girl she's been painting you as." "How do we do that?" "Carefully," Adrian said, "one step at a time. But first, you need to stop looking like you're about to break." "I'm not—" "You are," he said. "You've been running on fear and adrenaline for 3 years. I can see it. Everyone can see it. And if you walk into a room looking like that, Beatrice wins." Evelyn's hands clenched in her lap. "So what do I do?" "You learn to fight back," Adrian said. "Not with fear, with strategy, with strength, with everything Beatrice doesn't expect from you. And you think I can do that?" "I know you can," he said, "because you already did. Last night. You walked into that ballroom alone and you stood your ground. That's not nothing, Miss Harrow. That's the foundation we build on." The carriage hit another rut. Outside, the countryside rolled past, fields, forests, the distant shadow of the Vale Estate on the horizon. Evelyn closed her eyes and tried to breathe. She'd burned every bridge, defied her stepmother, walked away from her father. She had nothing left except the clothes on her back and the help of a man she barely knew, but she was still standing, and that had to count for something. Boss. The Vale estate was massive. Evelyn had seen it from a distance dozens of times, but up close it was overwhelming. 3 stories of gray stone, ivy climbing the walls, dozens of windows reflecting the morning sun. The grounds stretched out in every direction, manicured gardens, a lake, forests beyond. It looked like something from a storybook. The carriage pulled up to the front entrance. A footman opened the door and helped Evelyn down. Lady Ashcroft was waiting on the steps.
"So she ran," Lady Ashcroft said. She didn't sound surprised. "She ran," Adrian confirmed. "And you brought her here."
"Where else would I take her?" Lady Ashcroft sighed. "Come inside, Miss Harrow. You look like you're about to collapse." Evelyn followed her into the entrance hall. It was all marble and dark wood, and paintings of stern-looking people in old-fashioned clothes. Everything smelled like beeswax and roses. "I've had a room prepared for you on the 2nd floor," Lady Ashcroft said. "You'll stay as a guest, fully chaperoned, no scandal. Adrian's made that very clear." "Thank you," Evelyn said quietly. "Don't thank me yet," Lady Ashcroft said. "This is going to be a war. Beatrice Harrow doesn't lose gracefully, and you're about to become her primary target." "I already am her primary target." "Not like this," Lady Ashcroft said. "Up until now, she's been erasing you quietly. Now you've made yourself visible. That changes everything." "I don't understand." "You will," Lady Ashcroft said. She started up the stairs. "Come on, let's get you settled." The room was 3 times the size of the one Evelyn had left behind. A 4-poster bed with blue curtains, a desk by the window, a wardrobe that could have fit her entire previous life. "There's a bath through there," Lady Ashcroft said, gesturing to a door. "Hot water, soap, everything you need. Get cleaned up. Rest. I'll have a maid bring you something to eat." "Lady Ashcroft, we'll talk later," the older woman said. "Right now, you need to recover. You look like you've been through hell." "I have. I know." Lady Ashcroft's expression softened, just slightly. "But you're safe now. Remember that." She left. Evelyn stood in the center of the room, alone, and felt something crack open inside her chest. She'd done it. She'd walked away. She'd escaped. And now she had no idea what came next. She crossed to the window and looked out. The ground stretched out below. Gardens, paths, the lake glittering in the distance. Somewhere out there, Beatrice was planning her next move. And Evelyn had no idea how to fight back. But she had Adrian and Lady Ashcroft, and for the first time in 3 years, she had allies. That had to be enough. She turned away from the window, sat down on the bed, and finally let herself cry. Not from fear, not from despair, from relief. Because she was still standing, and she wasn't alone anymore. Bob. 2 days later, the letter arrived. Evelyn was in the library trying to read and failing when Lady Ashcroft found her. "This came for you," she said, holding out an envelope. Evelyn took it. The handwriting was her father's. Her heart stopped. "Do you want me to stay?" Lady Ashcroft asked. "No, thank you. I'll be fine." Lady Ashcroft nodded and left. Evelyn opened the letter with shaking hands. "Evelyn, your stepmother has informed me that you've taken up residence at the Vale estate. I don't know what to believe anymore. Beatrice says you've been seduced, that Lord Vale is using you, that you're making a terrible mistake. But I keep thinking about your mother, about what she would say if she were here, and I think she'd tell me to trust you, to believe in you. I don't know if I can forgive you for leaving, but I don't know if I can forgive myself for letting it get this far either. Please be careful. Whatever you're doing, whatever Lord Vale has promised you, be careful." Your father, Evelyn, read the letter 3 times, then set it down on the table. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't forgiveness. But it wasn't condemnation either. It was something. A crack in the wall Beatrice had built, and Evelyn would take it. She stood, crossed to the desk, and started writing a response. Because the fight wasn't over. It was just beginning. She stood, crossed to the desk, and started writing a response. The words came slowly at first, then faster. She told her father she was safe, that she wasn't being manipulated, that she'd made her own choice and she was standing by it. She didn't apologize, didn't beg him to understand, just stated the facts and signed her name. When she finished, she sealed the letter and set it aside. Then she wrote another one. This one was addressed to Mrs. Calloway, then Mr. Dunmore, then the Ashfords, the Prestons, the Langleys. Every family who'd watched her disappear without saying a word. She kept them short, polite, direct, thanking them for past kindnesses, letting them know she was well, reminding them she existed. She didn't expect responses, but she needed them to see her name again, to remember her as something other than Beatrice's damaged stepdaughter. By the time she finished, her hand ached and the sun was setting. A knock at the door made her jump. "Come in." Adrian entered carrying a stack of newspapers. He set them on the desk without ceremony. "You made the gossip columns," he said. Evelyn's stomach dropped. "Already? You crashed a ball and spent the evening on my arm. Of course you made the columns." He tapped the top paper. "This one's the most interesting. Read it." Evelyn picked up the paper. The column was titled Society Notes and written by someone called Lady Thornberry. She skimmed until she found her name. The surprise appearance of Miss Evelyn Harrow at the Vale Ball has set tongues wagging across the county. The formerly reclusive Miss Harrow, who has been notably absent from society events for nearly 3 years, arrived unescorted and was promptly claimed as a guest by Lord Adrian Vale himself. Eyewitnesses report that the young lady appeared perfectly composed and remarkably poised, dancing twice with Lord Vale and conversing with several prominent guests. Her stepmother, Mrs. Beatrice Harrow, arrived later in the evening and appeared less than pleased by the reunion. One wonders what prompted Miss Harrow's sudden return to society, and whether Lord Vale's involvement signals a deeper connection. More to follow as this intriguing story unfolds. Evelyn set down the paper. Her hands were shaking. "She's making it sound like a scandal," she said. "She's making it sound interesting," Adrian corrected, "which is better. Scandals can be spun. Interest means people are paying attention. Beatrice is going to use this." "Of course she is," Adrian said. "She's probably already drafting her own version. That's why you need to move faster." "Move faster how?" "By making yourself visible," he said. "The letters you wrote today, that's a start. But it's not enough. You need to be seen, in public, at events, looking healthy, composed, and completely in control." Evelyn's chest tightened. "I can't just show up at parties." "Yes, you can," Adrian said, "with the right escort, the right strategy. Beatrice has spent 3 years painting you as fragile and unstable. We need to show everyone she was lying." "What if I'm not ready?" "You're not," Adrian said bluntly. "But you don't have time to be ready. Beatrice is moving. She's going to spread rumors, poison conversations, make sure everyone believes you're unstable. If we don't counter that now, you'll lose." "So what do I do?" Adrian pulled out a chair and sat down across from her. His expression was all business. "There's a garden party at the Langley estate in 4 days," he said. "Half the county will be there. You're going to attend as my guest." "I can't." "You can," he said, "and you will. Lady Ashcroft will chaperone. You'll wear something appropriate, smile, make conversation, and prove to everyone watching that you're perfectly fine." "What if Beatrice is there?" "She will be," Adrian said, "and you're going to face her, calmly, politely, without flinching." Evelyn's throat tightened. "I don't know if I can do that." "You walked out of your father's house with nothing," Adrian said. "You can do this." She wanted to believe him, but the thought of facing Beatrice again, in public, in front of everyone, made her feel sick. "What if I mess this up?" she asked quietly. "Then we adjust," Adrian said. "But you won't, because you're stronger than you think." "You keep saying that." "Because it's true." Evelyn looked down at the stack of newspapers. Her name was in print. People were talking about her. The invisible girl had become visible again, and there was no going back. "All right," she said. "I'll go." Adrian nodded. "Good. Lady Ashcroft will help you prepare. And Evelyn—" He paused. "Don't let Beatrice get in your head. That's her weapon. She makes you doubt yourself. Makes you believe you're as weak as she says. Don't give her that power." "What if she's right?" "She's not," Adrian said. He stood straightening his coat. "And by the end of that garden party, everyone else will know it too." He left. Evelyn sat alone in the library, staring at the newspapers, and tried to imagine walking into a room full of people who'd watched her disappear. It felt impossible, but so had crashing the veil ball. And she'd done that. She could do this too. But the next 3 days were a blur. Lady Ashcroft drilled her relentlessly. How to enter a room, how to make conversation, how to deflect questions without seeming defensive, how to smile when she wanted to scream. "You're going to be under a microscope," Lady Ashcroft said on the third morning. "Every word, every gesture, every expression, people will be watching, looking for cracks, for proof that Beatrice was right about you." "No pressure," Evelyn muttered. "Quite a bit of pressure, actually," Lady Ashcroft said. "Which is why you need to be flawless." "I'm not flawless. No one is," Lady Ashcroft said. "But you need to look like you are, at least for a few hours." They practiced in the drawing room. Lady Ashcroft played the role of various guests, some kind, some hostile, some passive-aggressive. Evelyn stumbled through responses, fumbled words, froze when Lady Ashcroft imitated Beatrice's cutting tone. "Again," Lady Ashcroft said. "I can't. Again." By the third day, Evelyn could hold a conversation without her hands shaking. She could deflect a veiled insult without flinching. She could smile and mean it. Almost. The morning of the garden party, a dressmaker arrived with 3 gowns. All of them were beautiful: pale green silk, cream lace, soft rose-colored cotton. Nothing like the midnight blue gown Evelyn had sewn herself. "Adrian's orders," Lady Ashcroft said. "You need to look the part." As Evelyn chose the pale green. It was simple, elegant, expensive. The kind of dress she used to wear before Beatrice. When she looked at herself in the mirror, she barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked like someone who belonged in society, someone who had a place in the world. She looked like her mother. The thought made her chest tight. "You look perfect," Lady Ashcroft said from the doorway. "I look terrified." "That too," Lady Ashcroft said, "but no one else will see it. Trust me." The Langley estate was smaller than the Vale estate, but no less impressive. Rows of perfectly manicured hedges, gardens bursting with late summer flowers, tables set with crystal and silver under white tents. At least 100 guests milled about, laughing, drinking champagne, pretending the world was simple. Evelyn's stomach churned as the carriage pulled up. "Breathe," Adrian said from across the seat. "I am breathing." "You're hyperventilating," he corrected. "Slow down. In through your nose, out through your mouth." She tried. Her lungs felt too small. The carriage stopped. A footman opened the door. Adrian stepped out first, then offered his hand. Evelyn took it and climbed down. The noise hit her first. Dozens of conversations overlapping, the clink of glasses, laughter too loud to be genuine. Then the stairs. One by one, heads turned. Conversations faltered. Everyone was looking at her. "Walk," Adrian said quietly. "Head up. Don't hesitate." Evelyn walked. Lady Ashcroft fell into step beside her, her presence a solid, reassuring weight. Together, the 3 of them moved through the garden toward the main gathering. Mrs. Langley spotted them first. She was a plump, friendly woman in her 50s, and her face lit up when she saw Adrian. "Lord Vale, what a pleasure." Then her eyes landed on Evelyn, and her smile faltered, just for a second. "And Miss Harrow, how unexpected." "Mrs. Langley," Evelyn said. Her voice came out steady. "Miracle. Thank you for having me." "Of course," Mrs. Langley said. Her smile was back, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Though I must admit, I wasn't aware you'd be attending." "Last-minute arrangement," Adrian said smoothly. "I hope it's not an imposition." "Not at all," Mrs. Langley said, but her gaze kept flicking to Evelyn, assessing, curious. "Please, enjoy yourselves. There's champagne near the pavilion." They moved on. "She thinks I'm going to cause a scene," Evelyn murmured. "She thinks you might cause a scene," Lady Ashcroft corrected. "There's a difference." "Prove her wrong." Easier said than done. Everywhere Evelyn looked, people were staring. Some tried to hide it, turning away when she met their eyes. Others didn't bother. They just watched, waiting for something to happen. Caroline Preston appeared out of the crowd, beaming. "Evelyn, you came!" She grabbed Evelyn's hand, squeezing tight. "I wasn't sure if you would. After everything—" She stopped, glancing around. "Are you all right? I heard about what happened with your stepmother." "I'm fine," Evelyn said. Are you staying at the Vale Estate? Yes. Caroline's eyes widened. That's so… Well, it's certainly… She fumbled for words. I'm glad you're safe. Thank you. Have you seen her yet? Caroline asked quietly. Your stepmother? Evelyn's chest tightened. Not yet. She's here, Caroline said. Near the rose garden, with your father. She's been telling everyone you're unwell. That Lord Vale… She stopped, flushing. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. It's fine, Evelyn said. I expected it. Caroline squeezed her hands again. For what it's worth, I don't believe her. I never did. It was such a small thing, but it mattered. Thank you, Evelyn said. Caroline smiled and disappeared back into the crowd. Adrian appeared at her elbow. You're doing well. What? I've been here 10 minutes. And you haven't collapsed or run away, he said. That's progress. Your standards are disturbingly low. My standards are realistic, he said. Now come on, there are people you need to talk to. The next hour was exhausting. Adrian guided her through the crowd, introducing her to people she half remembered and people she'd never met. Some were kind, some were cold. Most were curious, watching her like she was an oddity on display. She smiled, made small talk, answered questions without revealing too much, deflected comments about her absence from society with vague references to family matters and personal reasons. It was a performance. Every word, every gesture, every smile. But it worked. Slowly, gradually, people started treating her like a person instead of a scandal. And then Beatrice arrived. Evelyn saw her across the garden, golden hair swept up, pale blue dress, her father at her side. They were speaking with Mrs. Calloway, and Beatrice was laughing at something, her hand resting lightly on her husband's arm. She looked perfect, composed, the picture of a concerned stepmother. Evelyn's hands clenched. Don't, Adrian said quietly. I'm not doing anything. You're staring, he said, and you look like you want to set her on fire. I do want to set her on fire. Later, Adrian said. Right now, you need to stay calm. Beatrice turned. Their eyes met across the garden. For a second, Beatrice's mask slipped. Fury blazed in her eyes, raw, undiluted rage. Then it was gone, replaced by a look of concern so convincing Evelyn almost believed it herself. Beatrice said something to Evelyn's father, then started walking toward them. Evelyn's heart hammered. She's coming over here. Good, Adrian said. Let her. Remember what Lady Ashcroft told you. Don't defend yourself. Don't explain. Just be polite and let her dig her own grave. Beatrice stopped 3 feet away. Her smile was warm, sympathetic. Evelyn, darling, she said, I'm so relieved to see you. Your father and I have been so worried. Evelyn's throat tightened. Mrs. Harrow. You look well, Beatrice said. Her eyes swept over the pale green dress, the careful hair arrangement, the composed expression. Lord Vale has been very kind to you, I see. He's been a generous host, Evelyn said. I'm sure, Beatrice said. Her voice was pleasant, but her eyes were cold. Though I do worry about the appearance of impropriety. A young woman staying at a bachelor's estate without family present. People do talk, you know. Lady Ashcroft is chaperoning, Adrian said smoothly. There's nothing improper about the arrangement. Of course not, Beatrice said. I simply meant that people will make assumptions. You know how society is, always looking for scandal where there isn't any. Then they'll be disappointed, Evelyn said. Beatrice's smile tightened. I'm sure, still, darling, your father and I would feel much better if you came home. We've all been so worried about you. The way you left, so suddenly, without a word, it wasn't like you at all. I left because I had to, Evelyn said. Had to? Beatrice's expression shifted to concern. Darling, whatever gave you that impression, your father and I only want what's best for you. If there's been some misunderstanding, there's no misunderstanding, Evelyn said. I know exactly what you've been doing for the past 3 years, and I'm done. The words hung in the air. Around them, conversations faltered. People were watching now, openly curious. Beatrice's mask cracked, just for a second. Then it was back, but her voice had an edge. Evelyn, I think you're overwrought. Perhaps we should discuss this privately. No, Evelyn said. I'm done discussing things privately. Every time we do, you twist my words and make me look unstable. So let's do this here, in front of everyone. Beatrice's eyes flashed. Darling, you're not yourself. I'm exactly myself, Evelyn said, for the first time in 3 years. Evelyn, you isolated me, Evelyn said. Her voice was rising, but she couldn't stop. You took my friends, my social connections, my place in this family. You convinced my father I was unstable, so he'd believe every lie you told him. And when I finally stood up for myself, you tried to have me sent away. Beatrice's face paled. Around them, the whispers grew louder. That's not true, Beatrice said. Evelyn, you're unwell. You don't know what you're saying. I know exactly what I'm saying, Evelyn said, and so do you. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Beatrice turned to Adrian, her expression cold. Lord Vale, I don't know what you think you're doing, but you're making a terrible mistake. This girl is not what she appears. She's unstable, manipulative. Funny, Adrian said. I could say the same about you. Beatrice's mouth snapped shut. Miss Harrow has been my guest for nearly a week, Adrian continued. In that time, she's been nothing but composed, intelligent, and remarkably resilient. The only instability I've witnessed has come from you and your attempts to control her. How dare you? I dare because I can, Adrian said. His voice was calm but absolute. And because unlike you, Mrs. Harrow, I don't make a habit of gaslighting vulnerable women for my own benefit. The garden went silent. Beatrice's face was white with fury. You know nothing about our family. I know enough, Adrian said, and so does everyone else here. They've watched you systematically erase Evelyn for 3 years. Some of them even helped, and now they're watching you try to do it again. The question is, will they let you? He looked around at the crowd. Dozens of faces stared back, some shocked, some uncomfortable, some guilty. Miss Harrow is under my protection, Adrian said. Anyone who has a problem with that is welcome to take it up with me directly. No one spoke. Beatrice turned on her heel and walked away, her skirt swishing behind her. Evelyn stood frozen, shaking from head to toe. Breathe, Adrian said quietly. She couldn't. Her chest was too tight. Around them, the whispers exploded. People talking, speculating, judging. Evelyn could feel the weight of every eye, every opinion, every assumption. Come on, Lady Ashcroft said, appearing at her side. Let's get you out of here. They walked toward the carriage, Adrian and Lady Ashcroft flanking her like guards. Evelyn's legs felt like water, but she kept moving. They were almost to the drive when someone called her name. Evelyn, wait. She turned. Her father stood 10 feet away, looking older than she'd ever seen him. His face was pale, his hands shaking. Father, she said. He took a step forward, then stopped, like he wasn't sure if he was allowed to come closer. Is it true? He asked. His voice cracked. What you said about Beatrice. Is it true? Evelyn's throat tightened. Yes. All of it? All of it. He closed his eyes. When he opened them again, there were tears on his face. I didn't know, he whispered. I swear, Evelyn, I didn't know. You didn't want to know, Evelyn said. There's a difference. He stopped, shaking his head. You're right. I should have seen it, should have listened to you. I was just... After your mother died, I was so lost, and Beatrice was there, and she made it easier, and I... His voice broke. I failed you. I'm so sorry. Evelyn wanted to scream at him, wanted to cry, wanted to collapse into his arms and pretend the last 3 years hadn't happened. But they had happened. I need time, she said quietly. I need time to figure out if I can forgive you. He nodded, tears streaming down his face. I understand. Take all the time you need. Just please be safe. Please. I will. He reached into his coat and pulled out an envelope. This is for you. Your mother's letters. The ones she wrote before she died. Beatrice said she'd lost them, but I found them in her desk yesterday. I think you should have them. Evelyn took the envelope with shaking hands. Her father looked at her one more time, then turned and walked away. Evelyn stood holding the letters, her vision blurring. Come on, Lady Ashcroft said gently. Let's go home. They climbed into the carriage. As it pulled away, Evelyn looked back. The garden party was in chaos. People clustered in groups, talking, gesturing. Beatrice stood near the rose garden alone, her face a mask of cold fury. Their eyes met one last time, and Evelyn knew this wasn't over. Beatrice would come for her, harder, faster, more ruthless than before. But this time, Evelyn wasn't alone, and she wasn't afraid anymore. The letters sat on Evelyn's desk for 2 days before she opened them. She'd stared at the envelope 100 times, picked it up, put it down, walked away and come back. But she couldn't bring herself to break the seal. Finally, on the third morning, she opened it. There were 12 letters, all in her mother's handwriting, all dated from the weeks before she died. Evelyn spread them across the desk and started reading. The first few were simple. Instructions about the household, reminders about family traditions, little notes of love and encouragement. Then the tone changed. My darling Evelyn, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And I need you to know something important. Your father is a good man, but he's weak. When grief strikes him, and it will, he'll look for someone to lean on, someone to make the pain easier. Be careful who he chooses. Not everyone who offers comfort has your best interests at heart. Evelyn's hand shook. The next letter was more explicit. There will be women who see your father's vulnerability as an opportunity. Women who want the Harrow name, the estate, the social standing. They'll be charming, sympathetic, perfect. They'll make him feel strong again. But watch how they treat you. Watch how they speak about you when they think no one's listening. If they try to push you aside, fight back. Don't let them erase you. The final letter was dated 3 days before her mother died. Evelyn, I'm running out of time, so I need to say this clearly. If your father remarries, when he remarries, you need to protect yourself. Keep your own money. Keep your own connections. Don't trust anyone who tries to isolate you from the people who love you. And remember this, you are a Harrow. Not because of your father's name, but because of mine. My family built this estate long before your father's family arrived. Everything here, the land, the house, the legacy, it belongs to you. Don't let anyone take it from you. Fight, my darling. Fight and survive. Evelyn read the letter 3 times, then set it down with shaking hands. Her mother had known. She'd seen it coming, and she'd tried to warn her, but Evelyn had been too young, too trusting, too devastated by grief to understand. Until now. She stood, crossed to the desk, and pulled out a fresh sheet of paper. Then she started writing. Not to her father, not to Beatrice, to a lawyer, because her mother had been right. The Harrow estate belonged to her, and it was time to take it back. The meeting with the lawyer took place 3 days later in a small office in town. Mr. Winters was an elderly man with sharp eyes and a sharper mind. He listened to Evelyn's story without interrupting, occasionally making notes, his expression neutral. When she finished, he set down his pen. You're claiming inheritance rights to the Harrow estate based on your maternal lineage, he said. Yes. And you believe your stepmother has been attempting to disinherit you. I know she has, Evelyn said. My mother's letters make it clear. The estate came from her family, not my father's. It should have passed to me when she died. But it didn't. Because my father inherited it as her husband, Evelyn said. And now he's under Beatrice's influence. She's been working to ensure I get nothing. Mr. Winters leaned back in his chair. Miss Harrow, what you're describing is a complex legal battle. It will take months, possibly years. It will be expensive. And it will be very, very public. Are you prepared for that? Yes. Your father will likely oppose you. I know. Your stepmother will fight you with everything she has. I'm counting on it. Mr. Winters studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. All right, I'll need to review the estate documents, your mother's will, and any other relevant paperwork. If your claim has merit, and I believe it does, we'll file a petition with the court. How long will it take? To file? A few weeks? To resolve? That depends on how hard they fight back. They'll fight hard. Then so will we, Mr. Winters said. He stood, offering his hand. Welcome to the war, Miss Harrow. Evelyn shook his hand, her chest tight with fear and hope, and something that felt like power. She was fighting back. Not by hiding, not by running, by claiming what was hers. The petition was filed 2 weeks later. Evelyn was in the library when Adrian found her. "It's done," he said, holding up a copy of the legal document. "Your lawyer filed this morning. By tonight, your father and Beatrice will know." Evelyn's hands were shaking. "What happens now?" "Now they respond," Adrian said. "Beatrice will hire her own lawyers. Your father will be caught in the middle. It's going to get ugly." "I know." "You're sure about this?" Evelyn looked up at him. "My mother left me that estate. Beatrice has been trying to steal it for 3 years. I'm not letting her win." Adrian nodded slowly. "Good. Then let's make sure you don't lose." "How?" "By making sure everyone in the county knows what you're doing," he said. "Right now, Beatrice controls the narrative. She's been painting you as unstable, desperate, manipulated. We need to flip that. Make you the wrong daughter fighting for her birthright. The public opinion will matter when this goes to court." "So what do I do?" "You keep showing up," Adrian said. "At parties, at dinners, at every social event you can manage. You keep proving you're stable, composed, and completely in control. And you let people see that Beatrice is the one who's desperate. That's going to take time." "We have time," Adrian said. "The legal battle will take months. Use them." Evelyn nodded. Her chest felt tight, but her hands had stopped shaking. She was doing this. She was really doing this. "There's something else," Adrian said. He pulled an envelope from his coat pocket. "This arrived this morning. For you." Evelyn took it. The handwriting was unfamiliar. She opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper with 5 words. "You're making a terrible mistake." No signature. Evelyn's blood went cold. "Who sent this?" "I don't know," Adrian said, "but I'm having it traced. In the meantime, you need to be careful." "You think Beatrice—" "I think Beatrice is capable of anything," Adrian said. "And now that you've backed her into a corner, she's going to get dangerous." Evelyn stared at the note. The words felt like a threat, a warning, or a promise. "I'm not backing down," she said. "I know," Adrian said, "but that doesn't mean you should be reckless. Beatrice has spent years building her position. She's not going to let you tear it down without a fight." "Then let her fight," Evelyn said. "I'm not afraid of her anymore." Adrian looked at her for a long moment. Then he smiled, a real smile, not the calculated half-curve he usually wore. "Good," he said, "because this is just the beginning." The response came faster than expected. 4 days after the petition was filed, Beatrice's lawyers sent a counterclaim. They argued that the estate had been legally transferred to Evelyn's father upon her mother's death, that Evelyn had no standing to challenge the inheritance, that her claims were baseless, desperate, and motivated by greed. They also filed a motion to have Evelyn declared mentally incompetent. Evelyn read the document 3 times, her hands shaking with rage. "They're trying to have me institutionalized," she said. "Of course they are," Mr. Winters said. He sat across from her in his office, looking grim. "It's the fastest way to disqualify your claim. If a judge rules you're mentally unfit, you lose all legal standing." "Can they do that?" "They can try," Mr. Winters said. "But they'll need evidence, testimony, witnesses. And right now they don't have much. Your behavior over the past few weeks has been exemplary. What if they make something up?" "Then we fight it," Mr. Winters said. "But Evelyn, this is serious. If Beatrice can convince a judge you're unstable, you'll lose everything. The estate, your independence, your freedom." Evelyn's throat tightened. "So what do I do?" "You keep doing exactly what you've been doing," Mr. Winters said. "Show up, be visible, be composed, make it impossible for anyone to believe you're unstable. And if that's not enough, then we go to war," he said. "In court, publicly. And we make Beatrice defend every lie she's ever told." Evelyn nodded. Her chest felt too tight, but her mind was clear. She wasn't backing down. Not now. Not ever. The hearing was set for 6 weeks later. In the meantime, Evelyn did exactly what Adrian and Mr. Winters told her. She attended every social event she could manage. She smiled, made conversation, proved to anyone watching that she was perfectly sane, but the whispers followed her everywhere. At the Ashford dinner party, she overheard 2 women discussing her unfortunate situation in hushed tones. At the Preston Garden luncheon, someone asked, politely, delicately, if she was feeling better. At the Vale charity auction, A man she'd never met offered his sympathies for her difficulties. It was exhausting, and it was working. Slowly, gradually, people started taking her side. Mrs. Calloway publicly stated that she'd always found Evelyn to be perfectly sensible. Mr. Dunmore mentioned, casually, in passing, that he'd never seen any evidence of instability. Caroline Preston wrote a letter to the local paper defending Evelyn's character. The tide was turning, but Beatrice wasn't finished. 2 weeks before the hearing, a new rumor started circulating. Evelyn was pregnant, with Adrian's child. That's why she'd left her father's house. That's why Adrian was protecting her. That's why she was so desperate to secure the estate. She needed the money to support an illegitimate child. The rumor spread like wildfire. Evelyn heard it whispered at a tea party, saw it printed in a gossip column, watched people's expressions shift from sympathy to judgment. She confronted Adrian in his study that evening, shaking with rage. "Did you hear what they're saying?" "I heard." "And?" "And it's a lie," Adrian said calmly. "Everyone with half a brain knows it's a lie." "That doesn't matter," Evelyn said. "People believe what they want to believe. And if enough people think I'm—" She couldn't even finish the sentence. "Then we'll deny it," Adrian said, publicly, decisively. "Lady Ashcroft will issue a statement confirming she's been chaperoning you the entire time. We'll provide documentation of your living arrangements. We'll make it impossible for anyone to believe the rumor." "What if that's not enough?" "It will be," Adrian said, "because Beatrice overplayed her hand. This rumor is too extreme, too outlandish. It makes her look desperate." "She is desperate." "Exactly," Adrian said, "and desperate people make mistakes." Evelyn wanted to believe him, but the weight of the rumor felt crushing. "I'm so tired," she whispered. Adrian's expression softened. "I know, but you're almost there, 6 more weeks. Then we settle this in court." "What if we lose?" "We won't." "You don't know that." "I do," Adrian said, "because you're not fighting alone, and because Beatrice is running out of weapons. This rumor? It's her last desperate attempt to destroy you, and it's not going to work." Evelyn looked at him. His expression was calm, confident, unshakable, and for the first time in weeks she felt something like hope. "Okay," she said. 6 more weeks. Then we end this." Adrian nodded. "Then we end this." Chad. The night before the hearing, Evelyn couldn't sleep. She paced her room, read her mother's letters for the 100th time, tried to calm the panic rising in her chest. At midnight, she gave up and went downstairs. The library was dark except for a single lamp. Adrian sat in a chair by the window, reading. "Can't sleep?" he asked without looking up. "No. Neither can I." Evelyn crossed to the window and looked out. The grounds were dark, empty, peaceful. "I'm terrified," she admitted. "Good," Adrian said. "Fear means you understand what's at stake." "That's not comforting." "It's not meant to be," he said. He set down his book. "Evelyn, tomorrow is going to be brutal. Beatrice's lawyers are going to attack you. They're going to drag up every moment of weakness, every mistake, every time you looked less than perfect. They're going to try to break you." "I know." "And you're going to stand there and take it," Adrian said. "And then you're going to tell your story, calmly, clearly, without apologizing, and you're going to make them see the truth." "What if they don't believe me?" "They will," Adrian said, "because you're telling the truth. And because Beatrice has been lying for so long, she's forgotten how to be convincing." Evelyn turned to face him. "Why are you doing this? Really? You've invested so much time, so much energy, so much risk, and I still don't understand why." Adrian was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood and crossed to stand beside her. "Because I watched my mother go through something similar," he said quietly. "My father remarried after she died. His new wife spent 5 years systematically erasing every trace of my mother from the estate, from the family, from history, and I was too young to stop it. By the time I inherited, it was too late to fix." Evelyn's breath caught. "So when I saw what Beatrice was doing to you," Adrian continued, "I saw my mother, and I decided I wasn't going to stand by and watch it happen again." "Adrian, you remind me of her," he said. "Not in looks, in strength, in the way you refuse to give up even when everything's against you. My mother had that, and Beatrice tried to bury it, just like your stepmother tried to bury you." Evelyn's throat tightened. I'm sorry. About your mother. Don't be, Adrian said. Just win. That's all I ask. Win. And prove that women like Beatrice don't get to erase women like you. Evelyn nodded, tears burning her eyes. Thank you, she whispered. Don't thank me yet, Adrian said. Thank me after the hearing, when it's over. The courtroom was packed. Evelyn sat at the front table, her hands folded in her lap, her back straight. Mr. Winters sat beside her, shuffling papers. Behind them, Lady Ashcroft and Adrian occupied the first row. Across the aisle, Beatrice sat with her lawyers, looking every inch the concerned stepmother. Her father sat beside her, looking miserable. The judge entered. Everyone stood. And the hearing began. Beatrice's lawyers went first. They argued that Evelyn had no claim to the estate, that her petition was frivolous, vindictive, motivated by spite. They presented testimony from servants who claimed Evelyn had been difficult and unstable in recent years. They suggested she was being manipulated by Adrian Vale for his own gain. They called Beatrice to the stand. She testified calmly, tearfully, convincingly. She described Evelyn's episodes, her erratic behavior, her refusal to accept help. She painted herself as a loving stepmother, trying desperately to care for a troubled stepdaughter. It was a masterclass in manipulation. Then it was Mr. Winters' turn. He called Evelyn to the stand. She walked up, her legs shaking, and sat down. The questions started simple. Her name, her age, her relationship to the estate. Then they got harder. Miss Harrow, your stepmother has testified that you've exhibited unstable behavior for the past 3 years. Is that true? No, Evelyn said. Her voice was steady. It's not. Then why would she say that? Because she's been trying to discredit me, Evelyn said. So no one would believe me when I finally fought back. Beatrice's lawyer objected. The judge overruled. Can you describe what your life was like after your father remarried? Mr. Winters asked. Evelyn took a breath. Then she told them everything. The isolation, the erasure, the lies. The way Beatrice had systematically destroyed her reputation while pretending to care. The threats, the manipulation, the final ultimatum. She spoke for 20 minutes. By the time she finished, the courtroom was silent. Miss Harrow, the judge said, do you have any evidence to support these claims? I have my mother's letters, Evelyn said, written before she died, warning me about exactly this situation. Mr. Winters presented the letters. The judge read them, his expression unreadable. Then he looked at Beatrice. Mrs. Harrow, you've heard these accusations. How do you respond? Beatrice stood, her face pale. Your Honor, my stepdaughter is clearly unwell. These letters, if they're even real, prove nothing. She's twisting innocent concerns into malicious intent. They're real, the judge said. I've verified the handwriting, and they paint a very different picture than the one you've presented. Beatrice's lawyer jumped up. Your Honor, we'd like to request a continuance to review. Denied, the judge said. He looked at Evelyn. Miss Harrow, based on the evidence presented and your testimony, I'm inclined to rule in your favor. However, there's one more thing I need to know. If I grant your petition, what do you intend to do with the estate? Evelyn stood. I intend to honor my mother's legacy, to restore what was stolen, and to make sure no one else can erase me again. The judge nodded. Then I'm granting your petition. The Harrow estate is hereby restored to Miss Evelyn Harrow as her rightful inheritance. Mrs. Beatrice Harrow has 30 days to vacate the property. The courtroom erupted. Beatrice screamed something. Evelyn couldn't hear over the noise. Her father buried his face in his hands. Evelyn stood frozen, shaking from head to toe. She'd won. She'd actually won. Mr. Winters shook her hand, grinning. Lady Ashcroft embraced her. Adrian stood in the back, watching, a small smile on his face. Evelyn turned to look at Beatrice. Her stepmother stood rigid, her face white with fury, her hands clenched into fists. Their eyes met, and Beatrice mouthed 2 words. This isn't over. Then she turned and walked out. Evelyn watched her go, her heart pounding. Because Beatrice was right. This wasn't over. But for the first time in 3 years, Evelyn had the power, and she wasn't letting go. And she wasn't letting go. The carriage ride back to the Vale estate was a blur. Lady Ashcroft kept talking, something about legal proceedings, next steps, formalities, but Evelyn couldn't focus. Her hands were shaking, her chest felt too tight. She'd won, but her body hadn't caught up to the reality yet. "Evelyn," Adrian said quietly. "Breathe." She tried. Her lungs felt too small. "You're in shock," he said. "That's normal. It'll pass." "She said it wasn't over," Evelyn whispered. "Beatrice. She said it wasn't over." "It's not," Adrian said. "She has 30 days to vacate, 30 days to cause as much damage as she can. We need to be ready." "How do we prepare for someone who's desperate?" "By being smarter," he said, "and by moving faster." The carriage pulled up to the Vale estate. Evelyn climbed out, her legs unsteady. The afternoon sun felt too bright, the air too cold. Everything felt wrong and right at the same time. "Go rest," Lady Ashcroft said. You've had a long day." Evelyn nodded and went upstairs. But she didn't rest. She sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wall, her mind racing. She'd won the estate, her mother's legacy, everything Beatrice had tried to steal. But what now? The Harrow estate was hers, but it was still occupied by Beatrice. Her father was still under Beatrice's influence. The county was still talking, still judging, still watching to see what she'd do next. Winning the legal battle was just the beginning. A knock at the door pulled her from her thoughts. "Come in." Her father entered, hat in hand, looking like he'd aged 10 years. Evelyn stood. "Father." "May I sit?" he asked quietly. She nodded. He sat in the chair by the window, twisting his hat between his hands. For a long time, neither of them spoke. "I don't know where to start," he said finally. "I've rehearsed this conversation 100 times, and I still don't know what to say." "Then just say the truth," Evelyn said. He looked at her. His eyes were red, exhausted. "I failed you. Completely. And I don't know if I can ever make that right." "You can't," Evelyn said. The words came out harsher than she intended, but she didn't take them back. "What Beatrice did, what you let her do, you can't undo that." "I know. For 3 years I begged you to see me," Evelyn said. Her voice was shaking, but she pushed forward. "I tried everything. I was polite, obedient, quiet. I did everything she asked. And you still believed her over me." "I was weak," he said. "After your mother died, I was drowning. And Beatrice, she made it easier. She took care of things, made decisions, let me hide from the grief. And by the time I realized what was happening, it was too late. She'd already convinced me you were the problem." "I wasn't the problem," Evelyn said. "I was never the problem." "I know that now," he said. "I should have known it then. And I'm sorry. I know that's not enough. I know it doesn't fix anything. But I'm sorry." Evelyn looked at him, this man who'd raised her, taught her, loved her once. He looked broken, hollowed out. And part of her still loved him, despite everything. "What are you going to do?" she asked. "About Beatrice?" "I'm leaving her," he said. "I've already spoken to a lawyer. The marriage is over." Evelyn's breath caught. "When?" "As soon as the paperwork is finalized," he said. "I won't fight your claim to the estate. It's yours." "It always should have been yours. And I'll do whatever I can to help you reclaim it." "Why now?" Evelyn asked. "Why not 3 years ago? Why not when I first told you what she was doing?" "Because I was a coward," he said, "and because I didn't want to admit I'd made a mistake. Marrying her was a mistake. Trusting her was a mistake. And letting her destroy you." His voice broke. "That was the biggest mistake of my life." Evelyn's throat tightened. She wanted to be angry, wanted to scream at him, make him feel the weight of what he'd done. But she was too tired. "I need time," she said quietly, "to figure out if I can forgive you, if we can rebuild this." "Take all the time you need," he said. "I'll wait, as long as it takes." He stood, placed his hat back on his head, and walked to the door. Then he stopped. "Your mother would be proud of you," he said without turning around, "for fighting back, for not giving up. She always said you were stronger than you knew." Then he was gone. Evelyn sat alone in the silence, her chest tight, her eyes burning. She didn't cry. She was too exhausted to cry. But for the first time in 3 years, she felt something like peace. The next morning, Adrian found her in the library. "We have a problem," he said without preamble. Evelyn looked up from the book she wasn't reading. "What now?" "Beatrice is refusing to vacate the estate." Evelyn's stomach dropped. "What?" "She's claiming the 30-day period starts from when the formal eviction notice is served," Adrian said, "which was yesterday. So technically she has 29 days left, and she's planning to use every single one of them. Can she do that? Legally?" "Yes," Adrian said, "but we can make it very uncomfortable for her. Mr. Winters is already drafting a response, and I've hired a property manager to start documenting the estate's condition. Every piece of furniture, every painting, every item of value. If Beatrice tries to take anything that belongs to the estate, we'll know." "You think she'll steal from me?" "I think she'll do whatever she can to hurt you on her way out," Adrian said. "So yes, we need to be prepared." Evelyn stood, crossing to the window. Outside, the Vale grounds stretched out in perfect order. Clean, organized, safe. Her own estate was still occupied by a woman who wanted to destroy her. "I want to go there," Evelyn said suddenly. Adrian frowned. "To the Harrow estate?" "Yes." "That's a terrible idea." "I don't care," Evelyn said. "It's my house. I want to see it. I want to walk through the rooms my mother loved. I want to stand in that place and know it's mine." "Beatrice will be there." "I know," Evelyn said, "and I'm done being afraid of her." Adrian studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. "All right, but I'm coming with you, and so is Lady Ashcroft. I don't need—" "Non-negotiable," Adrian said. "You're not walking into that house without backup." Evelyn wanted to argue, but the truth was, she was terrified. "Fine," she said. "When do we leave?" "This afternoon," Adrian said. "I'll have the carriage prepared." The Harrow estate looked exactly the same. Evelyn stood in the drive, staring up at the house she'd grown up in, and felt her chest tighten. The pale blue shutters, the ivy climbing the south wall, the rose garden her mother had planted when Evelyn was 5. It looked like home, but it didn't feel like home anymore. "Ready?" Adrian asked. Evelyn nodded. They walked to the front door. Evelyn raised her hand to knock, then stopped. "This is my house," she said. "I don't need to knock." She opened the door and walked in. The entrance hall was exactly as she remembered: dark wood paneling, the portrait of her mother above the mantel, the grandfather clock in the corner. But something was off. The air felt wrong, heavy, like the house was holding its breath. "Miss Evelyn?" She turned. Mary stood in the doorway to the servants' hall, her eyes wide. "Mary," Evelyn said, relief flooded through her. "You're still here." "Of course I'm still here," Mary said. "Where else would I go?" She glanced over her shoulder, then lowered her voice. "Mrs. Harrow doesn't know you're here. She's upstairs." "That's fine," Evelyn said. "I'm not here to see her. I'm here to see my house." Mary's expression shifted, something between hope and fear. "Does this mean— Are you coming back?" "Yes," Evelyn said. "In 30 days. When she's gone." Mary's eyes filled with tears. "Thank heavens. We've been so worried. After you left, she—" She stopped, glancing at Adrian and Lady Ashcroft. "I shouldn't say." "Yes, you should," Evelyn said gently. "Whatever she did, I need to know." Mary hesitated. Then she pulled Evelyn aside, her voice barely a whisper. "She's been selling things," Mary said. "Your mother's jewelry. Some of the paintings. Silver from the dining room. She says she's liquidating assets to pay debts, but there aren't any debts. She's just taking whatever she can before she has to leave." Evelyn's blood went cold. "How much has she taken?" "I don't know," Mary said, "but it's a lot, and she's been packing trunks. 3 of them, full of clothes and valuables. She's planning to take them when she goes." "Where are the trunks now?" "In her bedroom. Locked." Evelyn turned to Adrian. "We need to stop her." "We will," Adrian said. "But we need proof first. Mary, can you make a list of everything you've seen her take?" "I'll try," Mary said, "but I'm just a housemaid. I don't know what's valuable and what's not." "Do your best," Adrian said. And be careful. If she finds out you're helping us, she'll retaliate." Mary nodded and disappeared back into the servants' hall. Evelyn stood in the entrance hall, her hands clenched into fists. Beatrice was stealing from her, looting the estate before she left, taking everything she could carry. "We need to confront her," Evelyn said. "Not yet," Adrian said. "If we confront her now, she'll hide the evidence. We need to be strategic." "I'm done being strategic," Evelyn said. "This is my house. Those are my mother's things. I'm not letting her walk out of here with them." "Evelyn, no," she said. She turned toward the stairs. "I'm going up there." "Wait." But Evelyn was already moving. She climbed the stairs 2 at a time, her heart pounding. Behind her, she heard Adrian and Lady Ashcroft following. She reached the 2nd floor and walked straight to Beatrice's bedroom, the room that used to be her mother's. The door was closed. Evelyn didn't knock. She pushed it open. Beatrice stood in the center of the room, surrounded by trunks. She was holding a necklace, a ruby pendant Evelyn's mother had worn on special occasions. When she saw Evelyn, her expression went cold. "Get out," Beatrice said. "No," Evelyn said. "This is my house. You get out." Beatrice's laugh was sharp, brittle. "Your house? You think winning a court case makes this your house? You have no idea what you've done." "I know exactly what I've done," Evelyn said. "I took back what you stole." "I didn't steal anything," Beatrice said. "Your father gave this to me. All of it. The house, the estate, everything. And now you're trying to take it away because you're jealous and vindictive and—" "You're stealing my mother's jewelry," Evelyn said, pointing to the pendant in Beatrice's hand. "That necklace belonged to her, not you." "She's dead," Beatrice said. "It doesn't matter who it belonged to." "It matters to me." Beatrice's expression twisted into something ugly. "You think you've won. You think because some judge signed a paper you're safe, but you're not. This estate is a money pit. The debts are massive. The upkeep alone will bankrupt you within a year. And when you come crawling back begging for help, I'll be there to remind you that you should have stayed invisible." "I'd rather be bankrupt than erased," Evelyn said. "You'll be both," Beatrice said, "bankrupt and alone. Because no one is going to help you. Not your father, not Lord Vale. No one." "That's where you're wrong," Adrian said from the doorway. His voice was calm but absolute. "Miss Harrow has allies, resources, support, and she has something you'll never have. Integrity." Beatrice's eyes narrowed. "You think you're so noble, Lord Vale, swooping in to save the poor, helpless girl. But we both know what you really want. You want the Harrow estate. You want control, and you're using her to get it." "I don't need to use anyone to get what I want," Adrian said. "I already have more than enough. What I'm doing here is making sure you don't destroy someone else's life the way you destroyed Evelyn's." "How noble," Beatrice sneered. "Tell me, Lord Vale, how long do you think she'll last once you lose interest? A month? 2? And then what? She'll be ruined, disgraced, completely dependent on your charity. Is that what you want?" "What I want," Adrian said, his voice dropping to ice, "is for you to put down the necklace, step away from the trunks, and leave this house. Now." "I have 30 days. "You have 30 days to vacate," Adrian said. "Not 30 days to steal. Put it down." For a long moment, no one moved. Then Beatrice set down the necklace. Carefully, deliberately. "You're making a mistake," she said to Evelyn. "Both of you. This isn't over." "Yes, it is," Evelyn said. "You lost. Accept it." Beatrice's smile was cold. "We'll see." She walked past them, her skirt swishing, her head held high. Evelyn watched her go, her heart pounding. Then she turned to the trunks. They were full. Clothes, jewelry, silverware, small paintings. Everything valuable enough to carry. "She was going to take all of this," Evelyn said quietly. "Not anymore," Adrian said. He pulled out a notebook and started making a list. "We'll document everything. Make sure it's returned to the estate before she leaves." Lady Ashcroft crossed to the wardrobe and opened it. Inside, Evelyn's mother's gown still hung, untouched, preserved. "She didn't take these," Lady Ashcroft said. "She wouldn't," Evelyn said. "They're not valuable enough. She only wanted things she could sell." "Then we'll make sure they stay here," Lady Ashcroft said, "along with everything else." Evelyn picked up the ruby pendant Beatrice had dropped. It was warm in her hand, the weight familiar. Her mother had worn this the night she'd told Evelyn about the estate, about legacy, about fighting for what was yours. Evelyn closed her fingers around it. "I'm not letting her take anything else," she said. "You won't have to," Adrian said. "I'm posting guards at the estate, starting tonight. No one comes in or out without my approval. If Beatrice tries to remove anything, we'll know." "Won't that just make her angrier?" "Probably," Adrian said. "But she's already angry. At least this way, we control the damage." Evelyn nodded. Her hands were shaking, but her mind was clear. She was taking her house back, piece by piece, room by room, and Beatrice couldn't stop her. The guards arrived that evening. 4 men, hired by Adrian, stationed at the entrances. Their orders were simple. No one removes anything from the estate without written authorization from Evelyn or her lawyer. Beatrice was furious. She stormed into the drawing room where Evelyn was meeting with the property manager, her face white with rage. "You have no right." "I have every right," Evelyn said. "This is my estate, and you're not taking anything else. I'm your father's wife." "Not for much longer," Evelyn said. "He's filing for separation." "Did he tell you?" Beatrice went very still. "He wouldn't." "He already has," Evelyn said. "The papers were filed this morning. By the time you leave this house, you'll have nothing. No husband, no home, no claim to anything." For the first time, Beatrice looked genuinely shaken. "You vindictive little—" "I'm not vindictive," Evelyn said. "I'm just done being your victim." Beatrice stared at her, breathing hard. Then she turned and walked out. The property manager cleared his throat. "Miss Harrow, I've completed the inventory of the main floor. Would you like to review it?" "Yes," Evelyn said. "Let's start with the dining room." Yet, over the next 3 weeks, Evelyn practically lived at the Harrow estate. She met with lawyers, property managers, accountants. She reviewed ledgers, approved repairs, hired new staff. She walked through every room, cataloging what belonged to the estate and what Beatrice had taken. The debts Beatrice had mentioned turned out to be exaggerated. There were some outstanding bills, nothing catastrophic. The estate was in better shape than Beatrice had claimed, which meant Beatrice had been lying. Again. "She wanted you to think the estate was worthless," Mr. Winters explained during one meeting. "So you'd give up before you even tried." "It almost worked," Evelyn admitted. "But it didn't," Mr. Winters said. "You're here. You're fighting, and you're winning." Slowly, the estate started to feel like hers. She had her mother's portrait moved back to the entrance hall. She replaced the linens in the guest rooms. She opened the curtains in the library and let sunlight flood the space for the first time in 3 years. And every day Beatrice watched. Silent, furious, powerless. On the 28th day, her father came to see her. Evelyn was in the garden supervising the removal of overgrown hedges when he appeared. "May I speak with you?" he asked. Evelyn nodded to the gardeners. They stepped away, giving them privacy. "The separation papers are finalized," her father said. "Beatrice is leaving tomorrow, and I wanted to say goodbye." Evelyn frowned. "Goodbye?" "I'm leaving too," he said. "I've purchased a small property up north, near the coast, somewhere quiet. I think it's best if I give you space, let you rebuild without me hovering." "Father, you don't have to forgive me," he said. "I know I don't deserve it, but I want you to know. I'm proud of you, for fighting back, for not giving up. Your mother would be proud too." Evelyn's throat tightened. "I don't want you to leave." "I think you do," he said gently, "and I think you need to. This estate is yours now, your legacy. You don't need me cluttering it up with my mistakes." "I might need you later," Evelyn said, "when I've figured out how to forgive you." "Then I'll be there," he said, "whenever you're ready." He kissed her forehead, the way he used to when she was small, and walked away. Evelyn stood in the garden, alone, and let herself cry. Not from sadness, not from grief, from relief. Because she'd done it. She'd fought back. She'd won. And she was finally free. Beatrice left the next morning. Evelyn stood on the front steps, watching as the carriage was loaded. 3 trunks, searched, inspected, and cleared by the guards. Nothing in them but Beatrice's personal belongings. Everything else stayed. Beatrice descended the steps, her face a mask of cold fury. She stopped in front of Evelyn, her eyes burning.
You think you've won, she said quietly. But you haven't. You're alone now. No father, no husband, no one to protect you. And when this estate fails, and it will, you'll have no one to blame but yourself. I'd rather fail on my own terms than succeed on yours, Evelyn said.
Beatrice's smile was razor sharp. We'll see. She climbed into the carriage. Evelyn watched it pull away, down the long drive, until it disappeared beyond the gates. Then she turned and walked back into her house. Her house. The entrance hall was quiet, empty, but it didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt light, open, like the house was breathing again. Mary appeared from the servants' hall, smiling. Is she really gone? Mary asked. She's really gone, Evelyn said. Mary let out a breath. Thank heavens, we've been waiting for this day for 3 years. So have I, Evelyn said. She walked through the house, room by room, the drawing room, the library, the dining room, her mother's study. Every space reclaimed, every memory restored. When she reached the second floor, she stood outside her old bedroom, the one Beatrice had turned into a sewing parlor. She opened the door. The sewing table was gone. The fabric, the threads, the evidence of Beatrice's occupation, all removed. The room was empty except for her mother's old furniture, brought up from storage. Evelyn crossed to the window and looked out over the grounds. The garden stretched out below, wild and overgrown but beautiful. The lake glittered in the distance. The sky was clear, cloudless, perfect. This was hers now, all of it, and she was going to make it thrive. That evening, Adrian came to see her. He found her in the library, surrounded by ledgers and estate documents. How does it feel? He asked. Evelyn looked up. Overwhelming, terrifying, liberating. Good, Adrian said. That means you're doing it right. He crossed to the desk and set down a bottle of champagne and 2 glasses. What's this? A celebration, he said. You won. You took back your estate. You defeated Beatrice. That deserves acknowledgement. Evelyn smiled. I couldn't have done it without you. Yes, you could have, Adrian said. It would have been harder, messier. But you would have done it, because you're stubborn and relentless and you don't know when to quit. That doesn't sound like a compliment. It is, Adrian said. He poured 2 glasses and handed her one. To Miss Evelyn Harrow, who walked into a ballroom with nothing and walked out with everything. Evelyn raised her glass. To not giving up. They drank. The champagne was cold, crisp, perfect. Evelyn felt it settle in her chest, warm and bright. What happens now? Adrian asked. Now? Evelyn looked around the library, at her mother's books, her father's desk, the portrait of her family above the mantel. Now I figure out how to run an estate, how to rebuild what was lost, how to make this place a home again. Sounds like a lot of work? It is, Evelyn said. But I'm ready. Adrian studied her for a long moment. Then he smiled. Yes, you are. He set down his glass and stood. I should go. You have a lot to do. Adrian? Evelyn said. He stopped. Thank you. For everything. For seeing me when no one else did. For believing I could do this. I didn't make you strong, Adrian said. You were always strong. I just reminded you. Still, Evelyn said. Thank you. He nodded, then left. Evelyn stood alone in the library, her house quiet around her. For the first time in 3 years, she felt like herself. Not the erased, invisible girl Beatrice had tried to create, the woman her mother had raised her to be. Strong, resilient, unbreakable. She crossed to the desk, picked up a pen, and started writing. A letter to the county families, announcing her return, inviting them to a dinner party at the Harrow estate in 2 weeks. She was done hiding, done being afraid. It was time to reclaim her place in society, on her terms. And no one, not Beatrice, not anyone, was going to stop her. But the invitations were sent the next morning. By afternoon, the responses started arriving. Some were polite, some were enthusiastic, a few were coldly formal, but they all accepted. Because everyone wanted to see what Evelyn Harrow would do next. 2 weeks later, the Harrow estate blazed with light. Evelyn stood in the entrance hall wearing a gown she'd commissioned, deep emerald green, elegant, perfect. Her hair was swept up, her mother's ruby pendant at her throat. She looked like she belonged here, because she did. The guests started arriving at 7. Mrs. Calloway and Mr. Dunmore, the Ashfords and the Prestons and the Langleys, Caroline Preston, beaming, pulling Evelyn into a hug. "You did it," Caroline whispered. "You really did it." "I did," Evelyn said. Lady Ashcroft arrived with Adrian. They moved through the crowd, greeting guests, making introductions. And slowly, gradually, the house came alive. Laughter, conversation, music, the clink of glasses, the warmth of people filling rooms that had been empty for too long. Evelyn stood in the drawing room, watching, and felt her chest swell. This was her house, her life, her future, and she'd fought for every inch of it. "You look happy," Adrian said, appearing at her side. "I am," Evelyn said. "For the first time in years, I actually am." "Good," Adrian said. "You've earned it." They stood together, watching the party unfold, and Evelyn realized something. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was living, and that made all the difference. And that made all the difference. The dinner party stretched into the evening. Evelyn moved through the rooms, accepting congratulations, deflecting questions about Beatrice with practiced ease, making conversation feel effortless even though her feet ached and her smile was starting to hurt. But she didn't stop, because this mattered. Every handshake, every polite exchange, every moment she stood in her mother's house and proved she belonged here. It mattered. Near midnight, most of the guests had left. Only a few remained, Caroline Preston still chattering excitedly about the evening, Lady Ashcroft seated by the fire with a glass of brandy, Adrian standing near the window, watching the night. Evelyn excused herself and stepped outside. The gardens were dark except for the lanterns hung along the paths. The air was cold, sharp, clearing her head. She walked toward the rose garden, the one her mother had planted, and stopped at the edge. The roses were overgrown, wild, but still blooming, red and white and pale pink, their petals catching the moonlight. "You did well tonight." She turned. Adrian had followed her outside. "I feel like I spent 6 hours performing," Evelyn said. "You did," Adrian said, "and you were flawless." "I don't feel flawless. I feel exhausted." "Well, that's the price of reclaiming your place," he said. "It takes energy, constant vigilance. You can't let your guard down for a second." Evelyn looked at him. "When do I get to stop performing?" "When you've rebuilt enough that people stop watching for cracks," Adrian said. "Give it a year, maybe 2. Then you can breathe." A year. The thought was suffocating. "I don't know if I can do this for a year," Evelyn admitted. "You can," Adrian said, "because the alternative is going back to being invisible. And I don't think you can survive that again." He was right. She knew he was right, but the weight of it felt crushing. "What if I fail?" she asked quietly. "What if I rebuild the estate and no one comes? What if I can't maintain this and everything falls apart?" "Then you try again," Adrian said. "And if that fails, you try something else. But you don't give up, because giving up means Beatrice was right about you." "Maybe she was right," Evelyn said. "Maybe I'm just a scared girl playing dress-up." "Stop," Adrian said. His voice was sharp. "Beatrice spent 3 years convincing you that you were weak. Don't do her job for her now. You're not weak. You never were. And anyone who thinks otherwise wasn't paying attention." Evelyn's throat tightened. "Why do you care so much?" Adrian was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Because I see myself in you. The version of me that had to claw my way back after losing everything. And I know how hard that is. How lonely. How terrifying. And I don't want you to go through it alone." "I'm not alone," Evelyn said. "I have you. And Lady Ashcroft, and for now," Adrian said. "But eventually, you'll need to stand on your own. And when that happens, I want to know you're ready." "I'm not sure I'll ever be ready." "No one ever is," Adrian said. "But you'll do it anyway, because that's who you are." He turned and walked back toward the house, leaving her alone in the garden. Evelyn stood among the roses, breathing in the cold night air, and let his words settle. She wasn't ready. might never be ready, but she'd do it anyway, because the alternative was unthinkable. The next morning, a letter arrived. Evelyn was in the study, reviewing the estate's financial records, when Mary brought it in. "This just came for you, miss," Mary said. "Hand-delivered." Evelyn took the letter. The handwriting was unfamiliar. No return address. She opened it carefully. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "Miss Harrow, I hope this letter finds you well. My name is Margaret Winters, no relation to your lawyer, though we share a surname. I'm writing because I heard about your situation through mutual acquaintances, and I believe I can help. I run a ladies' investment society here in the city. We provide financial education, resources, and opportunities for women who wish to manage their own estates and businesses. Many of our members are in similar situations to yours, women who've inherited property, reclaimed estates, or are rebuilding after difficult circumstances. If you're interested, I'd like to invite you to our next meeting. No obligations, just an opportunity to meet other women who understand what you're going through. Respectfully, Margaret Winters." Evelyn read the letter 3 times. An investment society for women, run by women. She'd never heard of such a thing. "Is something wrong, miss?" Mary asked. "No," Evelyn said slowly. "I don't think so. Mary, do you know anything about ladies' investment societies?" "Can't say I do, miss. Though I did hear Mrs. Langley mention something about a women's group in the city. Sounded scandalous the way she talked about it." "Scandalous? How?" "Women managing money without their husbands," Mary said. "Mrs. Langley thought it was improper." Evelyn smiled. "Then it's probably exactly what I need." She wrote a response that afternoon, accepting the invitation. The investment society met in a townhouse in the city 2 weeks later. Evelyn arrived with Lady Ashcroft, both of them dressed conservatively but well. The townhouse was elegant but understated. No ostentatious displays of wealth, just quiet sophistication. A maid showed them to a parlor where a dozen women were already gathered, ages ranging from early 20s to late 50s. Some wore expensive gowns, others wore simpler dresses. All of them looked composed, confident. A tall woman with sharp eyes and graying hair approached. "Miss Harrow, I presume. I'm Margaret Winters. Thank you for coming." "Thank you for inviting me," Evelyn said. Margaret gestured to the room. "This is our monthly gathering. We discuss investments, estate management, business opportunities. Some of us are widows, some are single, some are married but managing independent finances. We're all here because we refuse to let society dictate what we can and cannot do with our money."
That sounds revolutionary," Evelyn said. "It shouldn't be," Margaret said, "but it is. Welcome to the revolution." The meeting was unlike anything Evelyn had experienced. The women discussed stocks, bonds, property investments. They shared advice on managing tenants, negotiating contracts, dealing with unscrupulous lawyers. They spoke with confidence and authority, like they belonged in rooms where financial decisions were made. One woman, Catherine Harwell, had inherited a textile mill and turned it profitable within 2 years. Another, Eliza Crane, had invested in shipping routes and tripled her inheritance. A third, Sophia Brennan, ran a publishing house that produced women's periodicals. These weren't women waiting for men to save them. They were building their own empires. "Your situation is unique," Margaret said to Evelyn during a break. "Most of us inherited smoothly. You had to fight for yours. That makes you valuable to this group. You understand struggle in a way we don't." "I'm not sure I have anything to offer," Evelyn said. "I'm still figuring out how to run one estate." "Then learn from us," Margaret said. "And when you figured it out, teach someone else. That's how this works. We lift each other." Evelyn felt something shift in her chest. Not quite hope. Something steadier. Purpose. "I'd like to keep coming," Evelyn said, "if that's all right." "More than all right," Margaret said. "We meet every month, same time, same place. Bring questions, bring problems. We'll help you solve them." Over the next 6 months, Evelyn rebuilt. She implemented the advice from the investment society, hired a competent estate manager who actually knew what he was doing, renegotiated tenant contracts, diversified income streams by leasing unused land for farming, invested a small portion of her inheritance in a textile venture Catherine Harwell recommended. Slowly, the estate stabilized. Then it thrived. The debts were paid off. The staff was restored. The gardens were brought back to order.
The house stopped feeling like a mausoleum and started feeling like a home. And Evelyn started feeling like herself. Not the girl she'd been before Beatrice. Someone new, stronger, sharper. She attended society events regularly now. Not because she had to prove anything, but because she wanted to. She hosted dinners, contributed to charity drives, became a fixture in county social circles again. People stopped whispering about her situation and started talking about her success. Did you hear about the Harrow estate? It's thriving. Evelyn Harrow turned it around in under a year. She's joined that investment society in the city. Quite forward-thinking, if you ask me. The transformation wasn't smooth. There were setbacks. A tenant dispute that nearly went to court. A harsh winter that damaged crops. Moments when Evelyn sat in her study at midnight, staring at ledgers, wondering if she'd made a terrible mistake. But she didn't quit. She asked for help. Leaned on the investment society. Consulted with advisors. Made hard decisions, and kept going. Adrian visited occasionally, less frequently as the months passed. Not because their friendship faded, but because Evelyn didn't need him hovering anymore. "You're doing well," he said during one visit, surveying the restored gardens. "I'm surviving," Evelyn corrected. "No," Adrian said, "you're thriving. There's a difference. It doesn't always feel like thriving. It never does when you're in the middle of it," Adrian said. "But look at what you've built. This estate is profitable. Your reputation is restored. You're respected. That's not survival. That's victory." Evelyn looked around, at the roses blooming in neat rows, the staff moving efficiently through their tasks, the house standing solid and strong. He was right. She'd won. But the real test came 9 months after Beatrice left. Evelyn was in town, meeting with her banker, when she saw her. Beatrice stood on the street corner, thinner than Evelyn remembered, her clothes less expensive, her hair less carefully arranged. She was arguing with a shopkeeper, her voice sharp, desperate. Evelyn's first instinct was to turn away, pretend she hadn't seen. But something stopped her. She crossed the street. Beatrice didn't notice her at first. She was too focused on the shopkeeper who was shaking his head firmly. "I told you, Mrs. Harrow, your account is overdue. I can't extend any more credit until you settle." The shopkeeper stopped when he saw Evelyn. His expression shifted to surprise. "Miss Harrow, good afternoon." Beatrice turned. Her face went white. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Evelyn said, "How much does she owe?" The shopkeeper hesitated. £20, miss. But you don't have to." "I'll cover it," Evelyn said. Beatrice's eyes widened. "I don't want your charity." "It's not charity," Evelyn said. "It's me choosing not to let you starve, even after everything you did." She handed the shopkeeper the money. He accepted it, clearly uncomfortable, and disappeared into the shop. Beatrice stood on the street, trembling. "Why would you do that?" "Because I'm not you," Evelyn said. "You spent 3 years trying to erase me, trying to break me, and I refuse to become the kind of person who does that to someone else, even if they deserve it." Beatrice's face crumpled. "You don't understand. I had nothing when I married your father, nothing, and I built a life. I had security, status, a place in society, and then you took it all away." "I took back what you stole," Evelyn corrected. "There's a difference." "You ruined me," Beatrice said. Her voice broke. "I have nothing. My reputation is destroyed. No one will receive me. I'm living in a boarding house, surviving on the generosity of people who pity me." "Then rebuild," Evelyn said, "the way I did. Find work, start over, stop blaming me for the consequences of your own choices." "It's not that simple." "Yes, it is," Evelyn said. "You made a choice 3 years ago to erase me instead of helping me, to lie instead of telling the truth, to steal instead of earning. Those were your choices. And now you're living with them, just like I had to live with mine." Beatrice stared at her, tears streaming down her face. Evelyn felt nothing, not satisfaction, not pity, just a hollow sort of closure. "I hope you figure it out," Evelyn said. "I really do. But I can't fix this for you. You have to do it yourself." She turned and walked away. Behind her, Beatrice called out, "I'm sorry. For what it's worth. I'm sorry." Evelyn didn't stop, didn't turn around, because an apology 3 years too late didn't undo the damage, but it did close the door.
Whoosh.
That evening, Evelyn sat in the study, the one that used to be her mother's, and pulled out the letters again. She'd read them dozens of times over the past year, but tonight, one passage stood out. Fight, my darling. Fight and survive. And when you've won, build something better than what was destroyed. Build something better. Evelyn set down the letter and picked up a pen. She started writing a proposal. For a school. A small one, on estate grounds. For girls from tenant families who couldn't afford formal education. She'd hire a teacher, provide books, supplies, give them opportunities they wouldn't have otherwise. It wasn't revolutionary, but it was something. A way to take the pain Beatrice had caused and turn it into something useful. She worked through the night, drafting budgets, outlining curriculum, listing potential students. By dawn, the proposal was complete. She presented it to the Investment Society at the next meeting. It's ambitious, Margaret said, reviewing the numbers. But feasible. If you're serious about this, I am, Evelyn said. Then we'll help you fund it, Margaret said. Half the women in this room started as girls with no opportunities. If we can give that to someone else, we should. Within 3 months, the school was operational. 6 girls, aged 8 to 14, attended classes in the old carriage house Evelyn had converted. They learned reading, writing, arithmetic, basic business principles, how to manage money, skills that would help them survive in a world that didn't make space for women. Evelyn visited the school often, sat in on lessons, talked to the girls about their dreams, their fears, their futures. One of them, a girl named Hannah, reminded her of herself at that age, quiet, watchful, hungry for knowledge. Do you think I could run an estate someday? Hannah asked one afternoon. I don't see why not, Evelyn said. I do. But you're rich, Hannah said. I'm just a tenant's daughter. I was just a grieving daughter once, Evelyn said, with no power and no voice, and I rebuilt. So can you. Hannah's eyes went wide. Really? Really, Evelyn said, but it takes work, discipline, and a refusal to give up even when everything's against you. I can do that, Hannah said. Evelyn smiled. Then you will. 2 years after the court case, Evelyn stood in the entrance hall of the Harrow estate, watching preparations for another dinner party. The house was alive again, staff moving efficiently through rooms, tables set with crystal and silver, flowers arranged in every corner. She wore a deep burgundy gown tonight, her mother's ruby pendant at her throat. Her hair was swept up, elegant but not ostentatious. She looked like someone who belonged here, because she did. The guests started arriving at 7. More than before, word had spread about the school, about Evelyn's work with the Investment Society, about the thriving estate. People wanted to be associated with her now, not because of scandal or pity, but because of respect. Mrs. Calloway arrived with her daughter. Mr. Dunmore came with a business proposal. The Ashfords brought their son, who'd been asking to meet Evelyn for months. Caroline Preston rushed in, beaming. Evelyn, did you hear? The school is being featured in the women's periodical Sophia publishes. They're calling it a model for rural education. I didn't know that, Evelyn said. Well, you should, Caroline said. You're famous now, in the good way. Evelyn laughed. I'm not sure I want to be famous. Too late, Caroline said. You're stuck with it. Adrian arrived late, as always. He found Evelyn in the library taking a brief respite from the crowd. Avoiding your own party? He asked. Catching my breath, Evelyn said. There are at least 60 people out there. 60 people who want to be here, Adrian corrected. That's not nothing. No, Evelyn said. It's not. Adrian crossed to the window, looking out over the grounds. You've done well, Evelyn. Better than I expected. You expected me to fail. I expected you to succeed, Adrian said. But not this quickly. You've built something remarkable here. I had help, Evelyn said. From you. From Lady Ashcroft. From the Investment Society. We provided resources, Adrian said. But you did the work. Don't diminish that. Evelyn joined him at the window. The gardens were lit with lanterns, guests spilling out onto the terrace. Music drifted from the drawing room. It looked like something from a dream. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I hadn't walked into that ball? Evelyn asked. You'd have found another way, Adrian said. Maybe not that night, maybe not that year, but eventually. Because you're not someone who stays buried. I felt buried for a long time. But you clawed your way out, Adrian said. That's what matters. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Evelyn said, I heard a rumor that you're being courted by the widow from the northern counties, the one with the shipping empire. Adrian's mouth curved. Rumor travels fast. Is it true? It's being discussed, Adrian said. Nothing's decided. She'd be lucky to have you, Evelyn said. I'd be lucky to have her, Adrian corrected. If it happens. Evelyn felt a strange pang in her chest. Not jealousy, something else. The recognition that their lives were diverging. That Adrian had given her what she needed, space to stand on her own, and was moving forward with his own life. Will you still visit? She asked. If you marry her? Of course, Adrian said. You're not getting rid of me that easily. Good, Evelyn said. Because I'd miss you. Adrian looked at her, his expression soft. I'd miss you too. He offered his arm. Come on, let's rejoin your party before people start talking. They walked back into the drawing room together, into the noise and light and warmth. And Evelyn realized something. She was happy. Not the fleeting, temporary happiness of a good day, the deep, steady happiness of a life rebuilt on her own terms. 5 years later, Evelyn stood in the rose garden, watching Hannah graduate from the school's first formal class. 6 girls stood in a row, dressed in simple white gowns, holding certificates Evelyn had commissioned. They'd completed 4 years of education, learned skills that would help them navigate the world, build futures that weren't dictated by their circumstances. Thank you, Miss Harrow, Hannah said, shaking Evelyn's hand, for believing we were worth investing in. You were always worth it, Evelyn said. I just provided the opportunity. Hannah smiled. I'm going to run an estate someday, just like you. You'll see. I believe you, Evelyn said. After the ceremony, Evelyn walked back to the house. The estate was thriving, more profitable than it had been in her mother's time. The school had expanded to 12 students. The investment society had grown to over 40 members. She'd built something that mattered, not just for herself, for others. Her father had visited 3 times in 5 years. Their relationship was still fragile, still careful, but it existed, and that was something. Beatrice, she'd heard, had left the county entirely. Rumor said she'd remarried a merchant in a coastal town, a quieter life, a smaller one. Evelyn hoped she'd found peace, not for Beatrice's sake, for her own, because holding on to anger was exhausting. That evening, Evelyn sat in her mother's study, her study now, and opened a letter from the women's periodical. They wanted to interview her, write a feature about the school, the estate, her work with the investment society. She set down the letter and looked around the room. The portrait of her mother hung above the mantel. The desk was covered with ledgers, correspondence, plans for expanding the school. This was her life now. Not perfect, not easy, but hers. She picked up a pen and started writing a response to the periodical. Dear Mrs. Brennan, I'd be honored to share my story, but I'd like to request one thing. Please emphasize that this isn't about me. It's about what's possible when women refuse to accept the limitations society places on them, when we fight for what we deserve, when we build instead of waiting to be saved. I was erased once. I rebuilt, and now I'm helping others do the same. That's the story worth telling. She sealed the letter, set it aside, and crossed to the window. The sun was setting, casting gold light across the gardens. The roses her mother had planted bloomed in perfect rows. The school stood in the distance, lights glowing in the windows. This was her legacy now. Not just survival, but transformation. She'd walked into that ballroom with nothing. Been buried by someone who wanted her gone. Fought back when everyone said she'd fail. And she'd won. Not by becoming someone else, by becoming herself. Stronger, wiser, unbreakable. The girl in the gilded cage had broken free, and in her place stood a woman who'd built her own empire. One decision at a time, one fight at a time, one day at a time, she'd stopped surviving and started living. And that, finally, completely, was enough.